Thanks for always finishing your lunch. Huh? I haven't been eating it. What? I've been throwing it away. I couldn't believe my ears. I get up early every morning to prepare his lunch, and it turns out he's been throwing it away. Why would you do that? It's my lunch. I can do what I want, right? I was heartbroken seeing my husband laugh as he said that. I lost faith in him as a person, and I decided to get back at him. I'll show him that I'm not always a submissive wife. Please marry me. Yes. 1 year after we started dating, I married my husband. We met at work. He was at the head office, and I was in the sales department. While we were dating, he always put me first, taking me to my favorite places and letting me eat my favorite foods. Every day, I felt happy thinking about the wonderful life that awaited us. But after we got married, his attitude changed drastically. He began to nitpick everything I did and made all the decisions himself. He became a controlling husband, and things gradually got worse. Recently, something truly unforgivable happened. Huh? What did you just say? I told you to start making lunch every day from tomorrow. Why? It's normal for a wife to make her husband's lunch, right? 3 years into our marriage, my husband suddenly insisted on this. I work too, and I'm busy in the mornings. Honestly, I don't want to take on more than I have to. We used to eat lunch separately, so why the sudden change? I was puzzled. I don't want meal preps. I want freshly made ones every morning. From that day on, I started getting up at 5 a.m. to make his lunch. Cooking was never my strong suit, and even simple tasks like making scrambled eggs took considerable time. Preparing all the side dishes for lunch in the morning was quite a challenge. This new routine left me with less sleep, and it was extremely tough. One night, seeing the empty lunchbox in the sink, I felt relieved, thinking, oh, he ate it all. From then on, I continued making his lunch every day, though he never expressed any feedback. Out of curiosity, I asked him one day, by the way, is there anything specific you want in your lunch? No, not really. I see. I thought you liked it since you always finish it. Ha! I haven't been eating it. What? I've been throwing it away. I couldn't believe my ears. I was baffled as to why he would throw away the lunch I got up early every morning to make. Why would you do that? Well, your cooking is bland. It doesn't make me want to eat. But I get up early and put a lot of effort into making it. Then make something that makes me want to eat. But you don't have to throw it away. You made it for me. I can do whatever I want with it. I was stunned. Why would he have me make lunch in the first place? When I asked him, he nonchalantly responded, because it's fun. He made me make lunch just so he could throw it away. I never thought he would do such a thing. I was so heartbroken that I cried myself to sleep that night and didn't make his lunch the next day. My husband got furious. I saw no point in preparing his lunch knowing he wouldn't eat it. But if I snapped back, I knew he would throw a temper. So I decided to fix his lunch again starting the next day, even though it was going to be thrown away anyway. Feeling more and more hollow each day as I made his lunch, I gradually began to prepare fewer items. You've been slacking off recently, haven't you? Do you think I wouldn't notice? I'm sorry, but if you're not going to eat it, it's the variety of food that makes me feel refreshed when I throw it away. Don't you get it? I don't understand at all. Due to my lack of sleep every day, I was so exhausted that I started making mistakes at work. That's when I heard a troubling rumor. Apparently, my husband had been bad-mouthing me. When I asked a colleague who had been on a business trip to our headquarters for details, he said my husband was calling me a useless wife and saying things like, she can't do anything without me. She has no will of her own. It was bad enough to know he was saying these things behind my back, but hearing it confirmed, I couldn't just sit back and take it. Over the weekend, I decided to confirm the truth and asked a close friend who works at the headquarters. Mickey, I've heard it too. Really? Yeah, your husband is pretty harsh on women. I don't know if it's because he's good at his job, but he seems to think women should only be assigned to make photocopies or something. No way, he wasn't like that before we got married. Did you do something? It's the other way around. I'm the one being treated poorly. How's he treating you? I explained to Mickey about him throwing away my lunch. As she listened, she became visibly angry, wrapping me in a tight hug as tears welled in her eyes. You've been so patient. I can't imagine how tough it must have been. Why are you crying, Mickey? I'm crying for you, you fool. But this is unacceptable. He needs to learn his lesson. That's true. He's really wronged you. Have you thought about getting a divorce? I'm worried about finances right now. You can handle that. I'm more worried about you. You're numb to the pain even after being mistreated like that. That's a sign you're not okay. It's not like I'm numb. I'm pissed. Then Mickey gave me a serious look. Do you want to get a divorce? In truth, the idea of divorce had been lingering in my mind. Thankfully, we didn't have any children. I found myself contemplating whether I should continue enduring life with my abusive husband indefinitely. To weigh my options, I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. I gazed directly into Mickey's eyes and said, "There's something I want to try. Will you help me?" "Of course." "Thank you. I want to use your position." You see, Mickey is actually the granddaughter of our chairman. Moreover, she's currently working as an executive assistant at the headquarters. I can't overlook the opportunity to enlist such a powerful ally. That's quite an idea. I see where you're going with this. I'm starting to look forward to it. If this goes well, I can make my husband feel ashamed of himself. The following Monday, as usual, I handed my husband his lunch. "Do you have time tonight?" "What's this about all of a sudden?" "You know Mickey, my friend who works as an executive assistant." "Yeah, what about her?" "Mickey says she'd really like to invite us to dinner. Apparently, the chairman will also be there." "The chairman. He wants to show appreciation for his hard-working employees. If it's a request from the chairman, I can't refuse." "All right." I thought he would be suspicious, but surprisingly, he agreed quite easily. Perhaps he was pleased with the thought of being invited by the chairman. With that, everything fell into place. After work, I met up with my husband and confirmed once again that he had thrown away his lunch. Then we went to the restaurant specified by Mickey for dinner with the chairman. My husband seemed pleased with the fancy place and began to boast about his competence. Today, I finished my work early and helped my colleagues. You know, being reliable is hard work when you're this good at your job. Is that so? The chairman's granddaughter is beautiful and she's an executive assistant, so I bet she's good at her job too. I'm just doing my job like everyone else. You don't need to be so humble. You're far different from my wife. He got on my nerves a bit, but the chairman moved on to the main topic. You get a packed lunch from your wife every day, don't you? Yes, she does work hard on that. What a wonderful thing, a lovingly prepared lunch from your wife. But it's the same thing every day. I'd like something extravagant once in a while. That's not something you should expect from your wife. Really, don't you, as a chairman, get extravagant lunches? I prefer something simple. It's an everyday thing, after all. Oh, you're just joking. You've even arranged for us to eat in such a wonderful place today. My husband's attitude was completely different from usual. He must have been trying to put on a good show in front of the chairman. I watched nervously, unsure of how it would unfold. "So, you don't cook?" the chairman asked. "Cook? No, that's women's work. I don't think that's the case nowadays. I think it's normal for men to work outside the home and for women to take care of the home. We both work, but ideally I'd like my wife to stay at home." "Really? Men are breadwinners and women are homemakers. That's how it's supposed to be." "That's a rather old-fashioned way of thinking." "Really? I think all men in the world would think the same way. Despite the increase in women's participation in society, they end up taking maternity leave or quitting their job. In the end, it's men who run society, and it's the same in our company as well. Don't you agree, Mr. Chairman?" That was the first time I heard such a thing, but he should know that we can't live on his income alone. He was spouting derogatory comments about women, but the chairman avoided addressing them and continued the conversation. "What do you think of men who cook?" he asked. "They're feminine. I've heard it's becoming more common, but I don't understand it. What if I told you that I enjoy cooking? Would you think I'm feminine?" "Ha! And what if I told you that I, not your wife, made today's lunch? What would you do?" "You're kidding, right?" You could feel the chairman's anger seeping through his words, and it's understandable because his handmade lunch was thrown away. "Hey, what's this about? What do you mean?" "What you said yourself. You didn't eat your lunch today, right?" The plan that Mickey and I hatched involved getting some help from the chairman, who had recently taken up cooking as a hobby. Yesterday, the chairman had kindly given us some of his homemade dishes, which I repackaged and handed over to my husband this morning. You set me up. It was far different from what I usually cook. Anyone could tell at a glance. My husband, who must have thrown it away without checking, was momentarily at a loss for words. Watching this, Mickey spoke up. "Aren't you more concerned about the terrible things you're doing?" "What terrible things?" "It's strange to throw away food every day without even eating it." That's right, it's the worst to just throw away something someone else has made for you without any appreciation. Well, if I had known it was made by you, sir, I wouldn't have thrown it away. My husband was trying to hastily backtrack, looking pale at the chairman's words. So you wouldn't throw away the lunch I make, but it's okay for you to throw away the ones prepared by your wife? Well, she's no good of a wife. Can a husband do whatever he wants? That was my last straw. You are really the worst. What are you on about all of a sudden? Don't you realize how much your actions are hurting me? Huh? Why are you getting so worked up? I can't stand it anymore. I want a divorce. My husband stood looking perplexed. He glanced around the room, realizing he had no one to back him up, and began to panic. What are you talking about? How can you just say something like that out of the blue? It's not out of the blue. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Where did the kind man I married go? I was in love with you then. I don't love who you are now. As I conveyed my feelings, tears began to spill. I took out the divorce papers that I had put in my bag and placed them on the table. All you need to do is sign. I filled in the rest. You're serious. If this looks like a joke to you, you're more helpless than I thought. Do you think you can survive after a divorce? I'll be fine. I'll be getting alimony from you after all. What? Watching this scene, the chairman began to speak. You seem to have some prejudices against women. That's not what I mean. I've heard from my granddaughter about your attitude towards our female employees. Coupled with this incident, this isn't something I can overlook as a chairman. What are you talking about? I'll let my son, the president, know about this. Wait, sir, I can't lose my job now. Before worrying about your job, there are other things you should do first. Taken aback by the chairman's angry voice, my husband was at a loss for words. Not once have you apologized. When you do something wrong, you apologize. Even a kid in elementary school knows that. I'm very sorry. Not to me, to your wife. Can't you even understand that? You're making me sick. Mickey, let's go. Sure, Linda, let's go. Huh? What are you waiting for? You're not going back home, right? You're coming with us. Seeing the desperate look on my husband's face, Mickey and I left the restaurant, feeling quite relieved. The next day at work, I got a call from Mickey. Your ex-husband got demoted. Demoted? When HR investigated his work behavior, there were complaints from female employees, one after another. Is that so? And apparently his performance in sales has plummeted. He deserves it. It seems that he was transferred to a sales branch in the countryside, where the women were quite formidable. At first, he seemed to resist and continued his tyrannical behavior, but the place was filled with tough women, like old-school matriarchs. Within a week, he was unable to talk back. Now he is so respectful of the women in the office that he even voluntarily makes copies. 2 weeks later, Mickey contacted me again. I was issued a notice of termination and was told that I would be transferred to work at the head office in a secretary position. What does this mean? I think this is the chairman's doing. It seems that the chairman took a liking to me after seeing my declaration the other day. So, he spoke with the president to allow me to work as a trainee secretary with Mickey. Oh, and there's a message from Grandpa. What? He said we're going to have a dinner party once a month, where you'll eat his homemade food. This is an order coming from him as a chairman. What? The chairman's gonna cook for me? He apparently wants to treat you. He even mentioned taking cooking classes. Later, the divorce was finalized successfully. I was able to receive my desired amount of alimony, which was $20,000. I lost a husband but gained a new friend. I'm happy. From now on, I plan to have my chairman teach me how to cook delicious meals for myself.
The day I discovered my brother's betrayal started like any other Tuesday, with me sipping coffee in his corporate office's waiting room. The mahogany furniture and abstract art screamed success, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way his assistant avoided eye contact, or how the morning newspaper headline about investment fraud made my stomach churn. I'm Zoe, and until that morning, I thought I knew my brother Chris better than anyone else in the world. We'd grown up sharing everything, from the last cookie in the jar to our deepest secrets. When Mom passed away 6 months ago, he was my rock. He held my hand through the funeral, helped sort through her belongings, and promised to handle her estate like the successful businessman he'd become. Ms. Hunt? His assistant finally called. Your brother will see you now. Walking into Chris's corner office, I noticed his usual confident smile seemed strained. Hey, sis. Sorry about the wait. These investor meetings are running longer than expected. Chris, where's Mom's inheritance? I cut straight to the point. The gallery space I wanted is available, but the bank says the trust account is empty. He loosened his tie, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was nervous. Look, Zoe, I can explain. I made some investments. You what? My voice cracked. It was supposed to triple our money. The market just... It's temporary. Give me 3 months. The door opened and a tall man in an expensive suit walked in. Chris, we need to discuss the Richardson account. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you had company. Dante, meet my sister Zoe. Zoe, this is my partner. Dante. I barely nodded, my mind racing. Chris, that money wasn't yours to invest. It was my share of Mom's estate. My future. Dante's expression shifted subtly. He knew something. Keep your voice down, Chris hissed. Look, I'll make it right. Why don't you come work for me? We'll call it an advance on your earnings. I laughed bitterly. Work for you? After you stole from me? I didn't steal anything. I'm growing our family's wealth. You're just too naive to understand business. My phone buzzed. A text from Vienna. Found something about Chris's firm. Call me ASAP. Ms. Hunt? A woman appeared at the door. I'm Lucille King, the firm's legal counsel. Could we speak privately? Chris's face paled. That won't be necessary. Actually, I stood up, gathering my composure. I'd love to chat, Ms. King. In Lucille's office, surrounded by law books and certificates, the truth spilled out. She didn't say it directly, legal liability and all that, but her careful words painted a clear picture. The investment returns Chris bragged about? Classic Ponzi scheme patterns. The Richardson account Dante mentioned? Probably didn't exist. Your brother's firm has some unusual financial patterns, Lucille said carefully. As his sister, you might want to distance yourself. I nodded, but my mind was already spinning in a different direction. Actually, I heard Chris is hiring. Would it be a conflict of interest if I applied? Lucille raised an eyebrow. Legally? No, but personally? Perfect. I stood up, my decision made. Thank you for your time. Walking back to Chris's office, I found him arguing with Dante in hushed tones. They stopped abruptly when I entered. You're right, I said, forcing a smile. I'm being ungrateful. When can I start? Chris's relief was palpable. Really? I mean, of course. Monday? We could use someone with your eye for design in the marketing department. Monday it is. I hugged him, fighting the urge to recoil. Family has to stick together, right? Outside, I finally called Vienna. Her voice was urgent. Zoe, you won't believe what I found. Chris's firm is... A Ponzi scheme? I finished. Yeah, I know. And I just got hired. What? Are you crazy? You should be calling the FBI, not joining his company. I watched people stream in and out of the building, carrying coffee cups and briefcases, oblivious to the fraud happening above them. No, this is better. He wants to teach me about business? Fine. I'll learn everything. How he operates, who's involved, where the money goes. Then I'll take him down from the inside. Zoe. Vienna's voice softened. This isn't you. Revenge won't bring back your inheritance. No, I agreed, but it might save others from losing theirs. Besides, Chris always said I was naive about business. Time to prove him wrong. As I hailed a cab home, my phone buzzed with a text from Chris. Proud to have you on the team, sis. Monday will be great. I smiled grimly. Monday would be interesting indeed. Chris thought he was getting a naive artist he could control. Instead, he was getting something far more dangerous. A sister with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Let the game begin. My first month at Hunt Financial flew by in a blur of client meetings, design work, and careful observation. I threw myself into creating sleek presentations and marketing materials, earning approving nods from Chris and his partners. But beneath my dedicated employee facade, I was mapping out every detail of his operation. "These investor packets are incredible," Dante said one afternoon, leaning against my desk. "The way you visualize the returns, it makes everything so convincing." I smiled, noting how he said convincing rather than accurate. "Thanks. I try to tell a story with the numbers." "Speaking of numbers," he lowered his voice, "Chris wants you to handle the Richardson portfolio presentation tomorrow. It's sensitive." "The mythical Richardson account again?" "Of course, just send me the data." "That's the thing." Dante hesitated. "We need you to create projections based on our standard model." "You mean make up numbers that look good?" His eyes widened slightly. "I wouldn't phrase it that way." "Relax," I laughed, playing the naive sister role perfectly. "I get it. Business is complicated, right?" Chris explained everything. Later that day, Vienna met me for lunch at a cafe across from the office. "You're getting too deep into this," she warned, stirring her latte. "What if you get implicated?" "I'm documenting everything," I assured her. "Every fake account, every manipulated number." "Speaking of which," I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo of a document I'd snapped earlier. "Look familiar?" Her eyes widened. "That's the same template they used for my aunt's investment, the one she lost everything on last year." "Exactly. Chris didn't just steal my inheritance, he's been doing this for years." A shadow fell across our table. "Doing what for years?" I froze at Logan's voice. Chris's most suspicious partner stood there, coffee in hand, eyes narrowed. "Building his client base." I recovered smoothly. "I was just telling my friend how impressed I am." Logan didn't buy it. "Funny, I was just telling Chris how impressed I am with you. Almost too impressed. Nobody learns our systems this quickly." "What can I say? I'm a fast learner." "We'll see." He walked away, but the threat in his voice was clear. Back at the office, Chris called me into a meeting with potential investors. "Tell them about our growth strategy," he encouraged. I launched into the presentation I'd prepared, watching their eyes light up at the promised returns. Each nod, each excited murmur felt like a knife in my gut. These people had no idea they were being conned. "Your sister's quite the asset," one investor told Chris afterward. "She sure is." Chris beamed, squeezing my shoulder. "Always knew she had it in her." That evening, as I was gathering my things to leave, Dante appeared again. "Want to grab a drink? There's something you should know." At a quiet bar nearby, he seemed nervous. "Logan's right to be suspicious," he said finally. "You're asking the right questions, noticing the right things." "Too right." I kept my face neutral. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he leaned closer, "that if someone wanted to understand how this operation really works, they'd need access to the server room on the 4th floor, the one that's always locked. Hypothetically." My heart raced. Was he helping me? Setting me up? "Hypothetically," I matched his tone. "How would someone access that room?" He slid a keycard across the table. "I don't know. And if Chris asks, I definitely didn't give you this after having too many drinks." "Give me what?" I smiled, pocketing the card. Back home, I called Vienna. The server room could have everything we need, but it could also be a trap. "It's definitely a trap," she said. "The question is, whose trap?" I stared at the keycard. "Only one way to find out. Tomorrow night, most of the office is attending a client dinner. The server room will be empty." "Zoe, wait. I have to know, Vienna. Not just for me anymore. For your aunt. For all the others they've scammed. Besides," I added grimly, "Logan's already suspicious. If I don't make a move soon, I might not get another chance." After hanging up, I sat at my desk, updating my evidence log. A photo of Mom caught my eye. The last one taken before she got sick. She was smiling, one arm around each of us, believing her children would always look out for each other. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered. "But Chris stopped being the brother you raised a long time ago." My phone buzzed with a text from Chris. Great job today. Investors loved you. Family dinner this weekend to celebrate? I typed back, wouldn't miss it. Tomorrow I'd find out exactly what was in that server room. And then, one way or another, this game would enter its next phase. Chris taught me to play by his rules. He just didn't expect me to play them better than him. The server room's lock clicked softly as I swiped Dante's keycard. My heart pounded as I slipped inside, the hum of computers filling the air. The client dinner would keep everyone occupied for at least 2 hours, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I'm in, I whispered into my phone. Be careful, Vienna replied. Remember what I taught you about accessing secured files? Before taking this job, I'd convinced Vienna, an IT specialist, to teach me basic hacking techniques. Now, facing the terminal, those lessons proved invaluable. The first few folders contained nothing surprising: marketing materials, client presentations, the usual corporate stuff. Then I found it. A folder labeled RX Holdings. Bingo, I muttered, copying files to my USB drive. A noise in the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps approached, then passed. I released my breath and continued searching. The next folder made my blood run cold. Project Phoenix contained spreadsheets tracking money movements between accounts. The numbers were staggering. Millions shuffled around in a complex dance of fraud. Holy shit, I breathed. Vienna, are you seeing this? Downloading now? Zoe, this is bigger than we thought. These transactions... The door beeped. I yanked out the USB drive and dove behind a server rack just as Logan walked in. Security said someone accessed this room. He spoke into his phone. Yes, I'm checking now. No, everything looks normal. Wait. He moved toward the terminal I'd just used. I held my breath, praying I hadn't left any traces. The system shows recent activity. Yes, I'll tell Chris right away. After he left, I waited 5 agonizing minutes before emerging. My hands shook as I texted Dante. We need to talk. Now. I met him at a 24-hour diner far from the office. His face fell when he saw the USB drive. You actually did it, he said quietly. Why did you help me? I demanded. What's your angle? He stirred his coffee absently. Your brother. He wasn't always like this. We started legitimate, had real clients, made honest money. Then the market crashed in 2008. Chris couldn't handle the idea of failure. So you helped him build a Ponzi scheme instead? I tried to stop him at first. Then I convinced myself we were just being creative with investments. By the time I realized how deep we were, he shrugged helplessly. Logan knows someone accessed the server room. Logan suspects everyone. But he can't prove anything without admitting he checks the access logs, which Chris specifically ordered him not to do. My phone buzzed. A text from Chris. Where are you? Missed you at dinner. Everything okay? Perfect, I replied. Just finishing some work. See you tomorrow. You can't keep playing both sides, Dante warned. Chris will figure it out eventually. I know. That's why I need your help. These files show the fraud, but they don't show where the money went. There must be offshore accounts, hidden assets. There are, but that information isn't on the servers. Chris keeps it in an encrypted drive in his personal safe. I leaned forward. The one in his office? Don't even think about it. That safe has biometric locks. Only Chris can open it. A plan started forming in my mind. What if he opened it himself? Voluntarily? How? The Richardson account. Everyone keeps talking about it, but I've never seen the actual client. What if... Because there is no Richardson, Dante interrupted. It's Chris's cover for moving large sums. When he needs to justify unusual transactions, he blames it on Richardson's special instructions. I smiled. Perfect. So what if Richardson suddenly wanted to make a very specific kind of transaction? Understanding dawned on Dante's face. One that would require Chris to access those records? Exactly. But I'll need your help to make it convincing. He hesitated. If Chris catches us? He stole my inheritance, Dante. He's stealing from innocent people every day. How much longer can you live with that? After a long moment, he nodded. What's the plan? We spent the next hour plotting, interrupted only by a text from Vienna. Analyze the files. You need to see this. It's about your mom's estate. I felt a chill. What about it? Come over, now. I looked at Dante. Tomorrow morning, we start laying the groundwork. Make sure Chris believes Richardson is getting nervous about his investments. And then? And then we find out just how far my brother will go to keep his house of cards from collapsing. As I drove to Vienna's apartment, my mind raced. What had she found about Mom's estate? How deep did Chris's betrayal really go? One thing was certain. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, and I was going to make sure everyone involved paid their fair share. Vienna's face was grim as she showed me her laptop screen. Look at the dates, she said, pointing to a transaction record. Chris started moving your mom's money 6 months before she died. What? I leaned closer, my hands trembling. But that's impossible. She was still managing her own accounts then. Not according to these records. He had power of attorney. No. I shook my head. Mom would never. The signature's here. Vienna pulled up another document. But look at it closely. The signature looked wrong, slightly shaky, unlike Mom's usual confident strokes. He forged it, I whispered. While she was sick, he must have. A knock at the door made us both jump. Vienna checked the security camera feed on her phone and paled. It's Logan. How did he? Ms. Hunt. Logan's voice carried through the door. We need to talk. Vienna pointed to her bedroom. I slipped inside just as she opened the door. Can I help you? She asked coolly. Your friendship with Zoe Hunt is well known, Logan said. Is she here? No, and it's midnight. This is harassment. Someone accessed restricted files tonight. Files containing evidence of sensitive business matters. Sounds like a corporate security issue. I'm a web developer for a retail company. A web developer who had lunch with Zoe today, right before she started asking unusual questions about our server room. Through the crack in the bedroom door, I could see Vienna cross her arms. Do you have a warrant, Mr. McGee? Because without one, this conversation is over. After Logan left, I emerged shaking. He knows. He suspects, Vienna corrected. But he can't prove anything without revealing his own unauthorized surveillance. My phone buzzed. Dante. Emergency meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Logan told Chris about the server room. Perfect, I said, surprising Vienna. Perfect? They're on to you. No, they're paranoid. And paranoid people make mistakes. I showed her my phone. Remember that plan I told you about? Time to accelerate it. The next morning, I arrived early to find the office buzzing with tension. Chris called me into the conference room where Dante and Logan waited. Someone accessed confidential files last night. Chris began. I widened my eyes innocently. Really? That's terrible. Was anything stolen? We don't know. Logan cut in. But whoever it was knew exactly what they were looking for. The timing is interesting, I said thoughtfully. Especially with the Richardson situation. Chris stiffened. What Richardson situation? Dante jumped in smoothly. I was going to tell you, they're demanding proof of their returns. All of them. Going back 3 years. Impossible, Chris snapped. Those records are what, Chris? I pressed. Is there something wrong with the Richardson accounts? The look he gave me could have frozen hell. Of course not. But client confidentiality? Speaking of clients, Logan interrupted. Where were you last night, Zoe? Working late at my friend's place. Why? Am I a suspect? Everyone's a suspect, he growled. Enough. Chris stood up. Zoe's family. She wouldn't betray us. Would you, sis? The way he emphasized betray made my skin crawl. Of course not. Just like you'd never betray me, right? His smile faltered slightly. Right. Now, about Richardson. I have their files ready, I said brightly. Just need your biometric access to retrieve the complete records. That won't be necessary. But they're demanding it, Dante added. Today. Chris looked trapped. Good. Fine, after lunch. They're waiting now. I pushed. Unless there's a problem. The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Finally, Chris nodded. Let's get this over with. In his office, I watched as he pressed his thumb to the safe scanner. Inside was a laptop and several external drives. Happy now? He snapped. Ecstatic. I smiled, noting which drive he reached for. Family has to trust each other, right? As we left his office, Logan caught my arm. I know you're up to something, he hissed. And when I prove it? You'll what? I challenged. Turn me in without exposing yourself? Good luck with that. I walked away, texting Vienna. Got safe access, moving to phase 2. Her reply was immediate. Be careful. If they're this paranoid already? She was right. The stakes had just gotten much higher. But so had my resolve. Chris hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He'd betrayed our mother's trust while she was dying. There would be no mercy now. Time to show my dear brother exactly what his naive little sister could do. The annual investor gala was in full swing at the Grand Plaza Hotel. Champagne flowed freely as Chris worked the room, charming potential marks with his practiced smile. I stood by the bar, watching him weave his web of lies while waiting for Dante's signal. Quite the turnout. Logan appeared beside me, swirling his whiskey. Though I notice our friend Richardson couldn't make it. Again. Such a shame. I sipped my drink. I was looking forward to finally meeting them. Cut the act, Zoe. I had someone check the security footage from the night the server room was accessed. The camera had a mysterious malfunction. Really? How convenient for whoever did it. You know what's also convenient? How you always seem to be around when things go wrong. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Dante. Safe open. Now. Excuse me. I smiled at Logan. My brother needs me. I made my way through the crowd toward Chris's makeshift office in the hotel's business center. The plan was simple. While Chris was distracted with investors, Dante would use the biometric data we'd secretly recorded to access the safe. My job was to keep Chris occupied. But halfway there, I ran into someone unexpected. Grandma Edith? I froze. What are you doing here? My grandmother stood elegant in her navy dress, looking severely out of place among the younger crowd. Vienna called me. Told me everything. She what? I glanced nervously toward the business center. This isn't the best time. It's exactly the right time. She gripped my arm with surprising strength. Your mother suspected, you know. About Chris, near the end. What do you mean? She tried to change her will, but she was too weak to sign the papers. Chris knew. That's why he rushed to get power of attorney. My blood ran cold. How do you know this? Because I was there, dear. I was too afraid to speak up then. I won't make that mistake again. My phone buzzed again. Dante. Hurry. Logan heading this way. Grandma, I have to go, she said firmly. But remember, revenge isn't worth losing yourself over. I rushed to the business center, finding Dante at Chris's laptop. Did you get it? Everything. He held up a drive. But Logan's coming and Chris just finished his speech. Give it to me. I took the drive. I'll handle Logan. Right on cue, Logan burst in. What are you two doing here? Looking for the Richardson presentation, I said smoothly. Chris wanted to show it during his speech. Funny, since Chris just announced Richardson couldn't make it. Again. Mr. McGee. My grandmother's voice rang out as she entered. I believe my grandson is looking for you. Something about irregular account activities? Logan's face paled. What irregular? You should ask him yourself. She smiled sweetly. He seemed quite concerned. After Logan rushed out, Grandma Edith turned to me. That should keep him busy. Now, what did you find? Dante showed us the files. Offshore accounts, shell companies, forged documents. The scope of Chris's fraud was staggering. "Look at this," Dante pointed. "The power of attorney document. The signature's definitely forged." "I recognize that handwriting," Grandma said quietly. "He used to practice copying your mother's signature on birthday cards when he was young. Always the perfectionist." A commotion outside made us jump. Chris's voice carried through the door. "Where's my sister?" "Time to go," Dante whispered. But as we turned to leave, Chris burst in. His face contorted when he saw us at his laptop. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Finding the truth." I held up the drive. "About Mom's signature, about Richardson, about everything." "Zoe, whatever you think you know." "She knows enough," Grandma cut in. "More than enough." Chris's face hardened. "Stay out of this, Grandma. This is between me and my sister." "No," she stepped forward. "This is about family, about trust, about the son I raised becoming someone I don't recognize." "I built something great," Chris shouted. "All of you are too blind to see it." "Built on lies," I said. "On stealing from your own mother while she was dying." "I protected our legacy." "You destroyed it." Grandma's voice cracked. "And now you have a choice. Face what you've done, or lose what family you have left." Chris looked between us, his empire crumbling around him. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the brother I used to know. Scared, vulnerable, human. Then Logan burst in with security, and that moment shattered. "Sir," a guard said to Chris, "we've had reports of unauthorized access to secure files." Chris's eyes locked with mine. In them, I saw his decision. "Arrest her," he pointed at me. "She's been stealing company data." As security approached, I gripped the drive tighter. The evidence that would destroy him. The truth about our mother, everything. Game on, brother. Game on. "Stop." Lucille's voice cut through the chaos as she pushed into the room. "Nobody's arresting anyone without a warrant." The security guards hesitated, looking between her and Chris. "She stole company property," Chris insisted, pointing at the drive in my hand. "Actually," Dante stepped forward, "that drive belongs to me. I can show you the receipt." Logan sneered. "You're in on this too?" "Everyone calm down," Lucille commanded. "Mr. Hunt, a word in private." As they stepped aside, I caught fragments of their heated whispers. Legal liability and unauthorized arrest and media attention. Chris's face darkened. "Fine. No arrests. But Zoe, you're fired. Get out." "Gladly." I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Oh, and Chris, check your email. I just sent something interesting to all your investors." His phone buzzed right on cue. As he read, the color drained from his face. "You didn't—" "The Richardson files? The forged power of attorney? Mom's stolen accounts? I sent it all. Should make tomorrow's investor meeting very interesting." "You'll destroy everything." "You already did that," Grandma Edith said quietly. "The moment you chose greed over family." The gala outside had gone quiet, phones buzzing as investors received my email. Chris pushed past me, desperate to do damage control. "Security breach," Logan shouted, following him. "Everyone stay calm." But it was too late. I watched from the doorway as Chris's carefully constructed world imploded. Investors demanded answers, phones called lawyers. His empire of lies crumbled in real time. "Ms. Hunt," Lucille touched my arm. "The FBI is on their way. I suggest you and Mr. Rogers stay to give statements." Dante nodded. "We have copies of everything." "This wasn't just about revenge, was it?" Grandma asked softly. "No." I showed her my phone, displaying dozens of messages from past victims of Chris's scheme. "It was about justice. For Mom. For everyone he hurt." The hotel lobby erupted in chaos as FBI agents arrived. Chris tried to run, but they caught him near the emergency exit. As they led him past me in handcuffs, he stopped. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "I'm your brother. Were you my brother when you forged Mom's signature? When you stole my inheritance? When you looked me in the eye and offered me a job knowing it was all built on fraud? I was trying to protect you. No. I stepped closer. You were protecting yourself. And now? Now you get to face the consequences. Family is supposed to stick together. He spat. Family is supposed to be honest. Grandma countered. Your sister just was. As the agents led him away, Vienna burst in. Zoe, I came as soon as I got your signal. Are you okay? Better than okay. I handed an FBI agent the drive. Everything you need is there. Account numbers, forged documents, all of it. Logan was next, escorted out in cuffs, still protesting his innocence. Dante gave his statement, then approached me. What happens now? He asked. Now? I watched investors leaving in angry groups, phones pressed to ears. Now the truth comes out. All of it. Ms. Hunt? A young woman approached nervously. I'm Sarah. Your brother took my parents' retirement fund. When I got your email... I know. I squeezed her hand. We'll make it right. More victims came forward, sharing stories of lost savings and broken dreams. Each one strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about my inheritance anymore. It was about every life Chris had ruined with his lies. Your mother would be proud, Grandma said, watching me comfort another victim. Would she? I just sent her son to prison. You protected others from him, just like she tried to do at the end. She pulled out an envelope. She wrote this the day she tried to change her will. Asked me to give it to you if things went wrong. My hands shook as I opened it. Mom's familiar handwriting filled the page. My dearest Zoe, if you're reading this, I've failed to stop your brother's schemes. I've watched him change, become someone I don't recognize. Promise me you'll be stronger, braver, true to yourself. All my love, Mom. She knew. I whispered. All along. And now everyone else does too. Vienna hugged me. It's over. But watching the FBI bag evidence, victims sharing stories, and reporters gathering outside, I knew it wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Chris's fraud had touched countless lives, and healing those wounds would take time. Actually, I said, an idea forming, I think I know what to do with my gallery space now. Oh? Grandma raised an eyebrow. Instead of just showing art, we'll help fraud victims rebuild. Provide resources, support, community. Taking something broken and making it beautiful. Vienna smiled. That's very you. Looking around at the aftermath of tonight's revelations, I felt lighter. Chris had taught me his game, never expecting I'd use it to expose the truth. Now his house of cards had fallen, and from its ashes, something better would rise. The courthouse buzzed with tension as I took the witness stand. 3 months had passed since the gala, and now Chris's trial was reaching its climax. He sat at the defense table wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his usual designer suits, avoiding my gaze. Ms. Hunt, the prosecutor began, please tell the court about the power of attorney document. My brother forged our mother's signature while she was in hospice. I stated clearly. She was too weak to manage her accounts, but she never authorized him to take control. Objection. Chris's lawyer jumped up. Speculation. Overruled, the judge said. Continue. I described everything. The forged documents, the fake Richardson account, the Ponzi scheme that had ruined countless lives. With each detail, Chris seemed to shrink further into his chair. During a break, Vienna found me in the hallway. You're doing great. The jury's completely engaged. Did you see his face when they showed Mom's real signature next to the forgery? First time I've ever seen your brother look scared. Dante approached, looking nervous. They're calling me next. Logan's lawyer tried to pin everything on me. Just tell the truth. I squeezed his arm. That's all any of us can do now. Back in the courtroom, Chris finally met my eyes as his lawyer cross-examined me. Isn't it true that you infiltrated your brother's company with the intention of destroying it? I joined the company to expose his fraud. I corrected. To stop him from stealing from more innocent people. Like yourself? He asked smugly. This is about revenge for your lost inheritance, isn't it? No. I looked directly at Chris. This is about a brother who betrayed everyone who trusted him, who forged our dying mother's signature, who built an empire on lies and convinced himself it was okay because he was protecting us. Your Honor, Chris's lawyer protested. The witness is telling the truth. Chris suddenly spoke up. The courtroom fell silent. Mr. Hunt, the judge warned. If you wish to speak, I did it. Chris stood up. All of it. The forgery, the Ponzi scheme, everything she said. I did it all. His lawyer tried to stop him, but Chris pushed on. I told myself I was building something great, protecting our family's legacy. But Zoe's right. I betrayed everyone who trusted me, including our mother. The prosecutor looked stunned. Your Honor, given the defendant's spontaneous confession, we'll take a recess. The judge banged her gavel. Counselors, approach. In the hallway, Grandma Edith hugged me tight. You did it, dear. We all did it, I corrected, watching Dante talk to the prosecutors. Every person who stood up and told the truth. Chris's confession will help the victims, Vienna added. They can't fight the insurance claims now. Sarah, the young woman from the gala, approached with tears in her eyes. My parents' retirement fund. The bank says they'll recover most of it. The gallery opens next week, I told her. We're hosting a support group for victims. You should come. I will, she smiled. You turned this nightmare into something positive. The bailiff called us back in. Chris stood as the judge delivered his sentence. 15 years, no possibility of early parole, and full restitution to all victims. Do you have anything to say? The judge asked him. Chris turned to face the courtroom. I'm sorry. To everyone I hurt. To my sister. To my family. I lost myself in the lies and I destroyed everything that mattered. As they led him away, he paused beside me. Zoe. Don't. I cut him off. Just do better, Chris. That's all Mom ever wanted for us. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Hunt, how does it feel to bring down your own brother's criminal empire? This isn't about bringing anyone down, I replied. It's about lifting people up. Every victim, every family affected. We're building something new together. Something honest. Later that evening, I stood in my nearly finished gallery space. The walls were lined with artwork created by fraud victims, their stories of loss and recovery captured in paint and sculpture. Mom would love this, Grandma said, admiring a particularly moving piece. Think she'd forgive me? For sending Chris to prison? Oh, darling. She took my hand. You didn't send him anywhere. His own choices did that. You just chose to stand for the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Vienna arrived with champagne. To justice. To healing, I corrected, raising my glass. As we celebrated, I thought about Chris sitting in his cell. Part of me would always love the brother who shared my childhood secrets, who held my hand at Mom's funeral. But that brother had chosen a different path, and I had chosen mine. Tomorrow, the gallery would open its doors, not just as an art space, but as a sanctuary for healing, for truth, for rebuilding broken trust. Chris had taught me his game of deception, never imagining I'd transform it into something beautiful. Sometimes I realized the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. Welcome to Truth in Art, I announced to the packed gallery. Every piece here tells a story of survival, of rebuilding after betrayal. The opening night crowd moved through the space, studying paintings and sculptures created by fraud victims. Sarah's parents stood before their daughter's work, a shattered piggy bank reconstructed with gold, inspired by the Japanese art of kintsugi. The broken pieces make it more beautiful, Sarah explained to visitors. Just like our story. Vienna squeezed my arm. Look who's here. Dante entered, looking nervous but determined. After testifying against Chris, he'd been granted immunity and had thrown himself into helping track down hidden assets. Didn't think you'd come, I said as he approached. Couldn't miss it. Besides, I brought someone who needed to see this. Behind him stood Logan, recently released on bail pending his own trial. He looked smaller somehow, without his expensive suit and arrogant smirk. "Why did you invite me?" he asked quietly. "Because everyone deserves a chance to make things right," I replied. "Even you." He nodded slowly, taking in the artwork. I kept telling myself we weren't hurting anyone, that they were all rich investors who could afford the loss. And now I see their faces, their stories. I can't hide from that anymore. A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. Lucille arrived with a group of FBI agents. "We found another account," she announced. "Offshore, hidden deep. There's enough to make all the remaining victims whole." The gallery erupted in cheers and tears. Sarah hugged her parents. Other victims embraced, their relief palpable. This wasn't just about getting justice, I told the crowd. It's about healing, about turning pain into power. "Speaking of power," Vienna whispered, "look." Through the gallery windows, I saw news vans arriving. The story of Chris's victims turning their experiences into art had gone viral. "Ms. Hunt," reporters called as they entered. "Is it true your brother has agreed to a full confession? To help other victims of financial fraud?" "Yes," I confirmed. "He's cooperating with authorities to prevent others from falling for similar schemes." "And the gallery? What inspired this approach to victim recovery?" I gestured to Mom's photo on the wall. "Someone wise once told me that true strength isn't in tearing things down, but in building something new from the ruins." Grandma Edith appeared at my side. "She'd be so proud, dear, not just of the gallery, but of how you helped all these people find their voice." A young girl tugged at my sleeve. "Is it true?" she asked. "That your brother stole everything?" I knelt to her level. "He did, but look around. Sometimes when we lose everything, we find something more valuable. Our strength, our community, our truth." The girl nodded solemnly. "My dad lost his money too, but he made that." She pointed to a sculpture of a phoenix rising from twisted metal. "The phoenix rises," I smiled. "That's what we all did." Later, as the crowd thinned, Dante handed me an envelope. "From Chris. Guard approved it this morning." Inside was a letter. "Dear Zoe, I spent so long building walls of lies that I forgot what real strength looks like. You showed me. Not by destroying my empire, but by building something true from its ashes. I'm sorry isn't enough, but it's where I'll start. Love, Chris." "You okay?" Vienna asked, seeing my tears. "Better than okay," I smiled, pinning the letter to our wall of truth, a space where victims shared their stories. The setting sun painted the gallery in warm light, illuminating the artwork and the faces of those who created it. Logan spoke quietly with FBI agents, sharing information about other potential schemes. Sarah led a group discussion about healing through art. Dante helped Grandma Edith set up for tomorrow's support group meeting. "So," Vienna grinned, "ready to admit this turned out better than plain old revenge?" I looked around at what we'd built. Not just a gallery, but a sanctuary for healing, a platform for truth, a community rising from betrayal. "You know what the best revenge is?" I asked. "What's that?" "Living well, and helping others do the same." As if on cue, Sarah's mother started playing the gallery's piano, a piece about redemption and hope. The music filled the space, wrapping around the artwork and the people who created it, binding us all in a moment of shared triumph. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I first discovered Chris's betrayal. It was better. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in transforming it into something that heals others. And that's a game worth winning.
I stared at the text message on my phone, my hands shaking. The words blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not after 10 years of marriage. "Sarah, honey, are you ready to go?" Jacob's voice called from downstairs. I quickly wiped my eyes and took a deep breath. "Just a minute," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady. As I descended the stairs, I saw Jacob standing by the door, keys in hand. He smiled at me, that same warm smile that had made me fall in love with him all those years ago. But now, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "There you are," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I turned my head slightly, and his lips grazed my ear instead. If he noticed, he didn't show it. We don't want to be late for the Johnsons' anniversary party. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As we drove to the party, Jacob chatted about his day at work, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I half listened, my mind replaying the message I'd received from an unknown number. Your husband is cheating on you with me. I'm sorry, but you deserve to know the truth. At the party, I plastered on a smile and made small talk with our friends and neighbors. Jacob's hand rested on the small of my back, a gesture that used to make me feel loved and protected. Now it felt like a brand of ownership. Sarah, dear? Mrs. A. Johnson approached us, beaming. So good to see you both. 40 years of marriage, can you believe it? I felt Jacob's chest rumble with laughter. Maybe we'll make it there someday, right, sweetheart? I looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of guilt or deception. But all I saw was the man I'd loved for a decade, smiling down at me with apparent affection. Excuse me, I mumbled, suddenly needing air. I made my way to the back porch, gripping the railing as I tried to steady my breathing. Are you okay? A soft voice startled me. I turned to see Olivia, the Johnsons' daughter, looking at me with concern. She was in her mid-20s, with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes. I'm fine, I lied. Just needed some fresh air. Olivia nodded, joining me at the railing. It can get a bit stuffy in there, can't it? All those happy couples. She trailed off, a wistful look in her eyes. You're not seeing anyone? I asked, grateful for the distraction. She hesitated, then shook her head. It's complicated. There's someone, but he's not available. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, I tried to keep my voice casual. That must be difficult. Olivia sighed. It is, but he says his marriage is loveless, that they're just going through the motions. He promises he'll leave her soon. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I gripped the railing tighter, my knuckles turning white. Olivia, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, who is he? She looked at me, confusion clouding her features. I can't say. It's not my place to. Sarah? Jacob's voice cut through the tension like a knife. We both turned to see him standing in the doorway, his eyes darting between us. Everything okay out here? I looked at Olivia, saw the guilt and realization dawning on her face. Then I turned to Jacob, the man I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. No, I said, my voice growing stronger with each word. No, Jacob. Everything is not okay. I stood in our kitchen, my hands gripping the edge of the counter so tightly my knuckles turned white. Jacob paced back and forth, his face a mask of guilt and defiance. How could you? I whispered, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. 10 years, Jacob. 10 years of marriage, and you throw it all away for what? A fling with a girl half your age? Jacob stopped pacing and faced me, his eyes pleading. Sarah, it's not what you think. Olivia and it just happened. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Oh, you never meant to hurt me? Is that why you told her our marriage was loveless? That we were just going through the motions? His face paled. You talked to Olivia? I didn't have to, I spat. She told me everything without realizing who I was. God, Jacob, how could you be so cruel? He reached for me, but I recoiled. Don't touch me, I hissed. I want you out of this house, now. Sarah, please, he begged. We can work this out. I'll end things with Olivia, I promise. Just give me another chance. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. There are no more chances, Jacob. You've broken something that can't be fixed. As Jacob packed a bag, I retreated to our bedroom, my bedroom now, and collapsed on the bed. My whole world had shattered in the span of a few hours. How was I supposed to move forward from this? With shaking hands, I reached for my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Hello? A familiar voice answered. Charlotte? I choked out. It's Sarah? I need you. An hour later, I was sitting on Charlotte's couch, a steaming mug of tea in my hands. My old college roommate and best friend listened intently as I poured out the whole sordid story. Oh, honey, Charlotte sighed, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. I'm so sorry you're going through this. What a bastard. I leaned into her embrace, grateful for her unwavering support. I just feel so stupid, Charlie. How did I not see it? Hey, none of that, she said firmly. You are not stupid. Jacob is the one who made the choice to betray you. This is on him, not you. I nodded, wiping away fresh tears. What do I do now? I can't imagine going back to that house, sleeping in that bed. Charlotte squeezed my hand. You stay here with me for as long as you need. We'll figure this out together, okay? As the days passed, Charlotte became my rock. She helped me navigate the murky waters of separation, accompanying me to meet with a divorce lawyer and standing by my side as I packed up my things from the house I'd shared with Jacob. One evening, as we sat on her balcony watching the sunset, Charlotte turned to me with a determined look in her eyes. Sarah, I think it's time you started focusing on yourself. What do you want for your future? I blinked, realizing I hadn't thought beyond my pain and anger. I don't know. My whole life was wrapped up in Jacob and our marriage. Well, now's your chance to rediscover yourself, Charlotte said encouragingly. What about your career? You've always loved teaching. Maybe it's time to pursue that advanced degree you've been talking about? A small spark of excitement flickered in my chest. You're right. I've always wanted to become a reading specialist. Maybe this is my opportunity to make that happen. Charlotte grinned. That's my girl. You're going to come out of this stronger than ever, Sarah. I just know it. As we clinked our wine glasses together, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since my world had fallen apart. But just then my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Jacob. Sarah, we need to talk. There's something you should know about Olivia. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. What more could he possibly have to say? And why did I have a sinking feeling that my journey through this mess was far from over? I stared at the divorce papers on the kitchen table, my hand hovering over the signature line. Charlotte sat beside me, her presence a comforting anchor in the storm of emotions swirling inside me. You don't have to do this today if you're not ready, Sarah, she said gently. I took a deep breath. No, I need to do this. It's time. With a trembling hand, I signed my name, officially ending my 10-year marriage to Jacob. As I set the pen down, a mix of relief and sadness washed over me. I'm proud of you, Charlotte said, squeezing my shoulder. This is the first step towards your new life. I nodded, wiping away a stray tear. You're right. I can't keep living in the past. It's time to focus on my future. The next day, I walked into the elementary school where I taught, my head held high. As I passed the principal's office, a voice called out, Sarah, do you have a moment? I turned to see Principal Roberts beckoning me inside. Curious, I followed her into her office. I heard about your situation, she said, her eyes filled with sympathy. I'm so sorry you're going through this, but I have a proposition that might help take your mind off things. My interest piqued. What kind of proposition? We're starting a new reading intervention program next semester, she explained. I know you've been interested in becoming a reading specialist. Would you like to lead the program? My heart raced with excitement. Are you serious? I'd love to. Principal Roberts smiled. Excellent. It will require some additional training and certification, but I think you're perfect for the role. As I left her office, my mind was buzzing with possibilities. This was exactly the kind of challenge I needed to help me move forward. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into preparing for my new role. The extra work was exhausting but exhilarating. For the first time in months, I felt like I was truly living for myself, not just going through the motions. One evening, as I was leaving the school after a late planning session, I quite literally ran into someone in the hallway. Oh, I'm so sorry, I exclaimed, bending down to help gather the scattered papers. No worries, a deep voice chuckled. I wasn't watching where I was going either. I looked up to find myself face to face with Michael, the new 5th grade teacher. His kind brown eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled at me. Sarah, right? He asked. I've seen you around, but we haven't officially met. I'm Michael. We shook hands, and I felt an unexpected spark at his touch. Flustered, I quickly changed the subject. What are you doing here so late? I asked. He held up a stack of papers. Grading never ends, does it? But I could ask you the same question. I explained about the new reading program, and Michael's eyes lit up with interest. That sounds amazing, he said enthusiastically. I have a few students who could really benefit from something like that. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime and you could tell me more about it? I hesitated for a moment, my recent heartbreak making me wary. But something about Michael's warm smile and genuine interest made me nod. I'd like that, I said softly. As I drove home that night, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. The excitement of my new career opportunity, the unexpected connection with Michael, and the lingering pain of my failed marriage all competed for attention. Just as I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Jacob. "Sarah, I know you're moving on, but there's something you need to know. It's about Olivia. Can we meet?" My stomach clenched. Just when I thought I was making progress, Jacob threatened to pull me back into the drama. Should I agree to meet him? Or was it time to truly cut all ties and focus on my new beginning? As I sat in my car staring at the text, I realized that the choice I made now would set the course for the rest of my life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to take control of my own destiny. I never expected to fall in love again, especially not so soon after my divorce. But life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. Michael and I had been meeting for coffee regularly to discuss the reading program, but our conversations quickly expanded beyond work. His kindness, humor, and genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings were a balm to my wounded heart. One evening, as we walked through the park after dinner, Michael took my hand. The simple gesture sent a jolt of electricity through me. "Sarah," he said, his voice soft but serious, "I know you've been through a lot, and I don't want to rush you, but I need you to know how I feel. I'm falling in love with you." My heart raced, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through me. "Michael, I think I'm falling for you too, but I'm scared. What if I'm not ready?" He squeezed my hand gently. "We'll take it as slow as you need. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few months, our relationship blossomed. Michael was everything Jacob wasn't: attentive, supportive, and honest. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen and appreciated. But just as I was starting to believe in happily ever after again, life threw me another curveball. It was a crisp autumn evening when Michael surprised me with a picnic in the park where we first confessed our feelings. As we sat on the blanket, surrounded by falling leaves, he took my hands in his. "Sarah," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "these past few months have been the happiest of my life. You've shown me what true love really means." My breath caught in my throat as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know it might seem fast," he continued, "but when you know, you know. Sarah, will you marry me?" Time seemed to stand still as I stared at the beautiful ring nestled in the box. A whirlwind of emotions swept through me: joy, love, excitement, and fear. "Michael, I hesitated, tears welling up in my eyes. "I love you so much, but I'm scared. My last marriage, it ended so badly. What if I'm not ready for this?" Michael's face softened with understanding. "I know you're scared, Sarah, and I understand why, but I'm not Jacob. I will never betray you or take you for granted. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." As I looked into his earnest eyes, I felt my fears begin to melt away. This was Michael, kind, loving, trustworthy Michael. He wasn't Jacob, and it wasn't fair to let my past dictate my future. "Yes," I whispered, a smile breaking through my tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." Michael's face lit up with joy as he slipped the ring onto my finger. As we embraced, I felt a sense of peace and rightness that I hadn't experienced in years. But our moment of bliss was interrupted by the harsh buzz of my phone. I reluctantly pulled away from Michael to check it, thinking it might be Charlotte wanting to know how the evening went. Instead, I saw Jacob's name on the screen. My stomach clenched as I read his message. "Sarah, I know you're moving on, but there's something you need to know. Olivia is pregnant, and she says it's mine. I don't know what to do. Please, can we talk?" The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I looked from the message to the sparkling ring on my finger, then back to Michael's concerned face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. I took a deep breath, knowing that my response to this message could change everything. Do I ignore Jacob and focus on my new life with Michael? Or do I get involved in this new drama, potentially jeopardizing my fresh start? As the weight of the decision pressed down on me, I realized that the choice I made now would not only affect my future but the lives of everyone involved. With trembling fingers, I began to type my response, hoping against hope that I was making the right choice. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the little plastic stick in my trembling hands. 2 pink lines, clear as day, pregnant. My mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Joy, fear, excitement, panic. They all battled for dominance as I tried to process this life-changing news. Sarah? Charlotte's voice called from the other side of the bathroom door. Are you okay in there? I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Yeah, I'm coming out. I opened the door to find Charlotte waiting anxiously. One look at my face told her everything. Oh my God, she whispered, pulling me into a tight hug. You're pregnant? I nodded against her shoulder, tears spilling down my cheeks. I don't know what to do, Charlie. I'm scared. Charlotte led me to the couch, keeping an arm around my shoulders. Okay, let's think this through. How do you feel about it? I'm happy, I admitted, surprising myself. I've always wanted to be a mother, but the timing, God, Charlie, I just got engaged to Michael. We haven't even set a wedding date yet. And Jacob. The mention of my ex-husband's name hung heavy in the air. I hadn't responded to his message about Olivia's pregnancy, choosing instead to focus on my relationship with Michael. But now, everything was infinitely more complicated. Have you told Michael yet? Charlotte asked gently. I shook my head. I wanted to be sure first, and I needed time to process it myself. He'll be thrilled, Sarah, Charlotte reassured me. Michael loves you. He'll support you no matter what. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Can't wait to see you tonight. I love you. Fresh tears welled up in my eyes. What if he thinks it's too soon? What if he doesn't want this? Charlotte squeezed my hand. Sarah, look at me. Michael is not Jacob. He's proven time and time again that he's in this for the long haul. Trust in that. I nodded, taking a deep breath. You're right. I need to tell him tonight. That evening, I paced nervously in my living room, waiting for Michael to arrive. When the doorbell rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Hey, beautiful. Michael greeted me with a kiss. His smile faded as he noticed my tense expression. Sarah, what's wrong? I led him to the couch, my heart pounding. Michael, I have something to tell you. His brow furrowed with concern. You're scaring me, Sarah. What is it? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I'm pregnant. For a moment, Michael sat in stunned silence. Then, to my utter amazement, a broad smile spread across his face. We're having a baby? He asked, his voice filled with wonder. I nodded, tears of relief spilling down my cheeks. You're happy about this? Michael pulled me into his arms, laughing joyfully. Happy? Sarah? I'm ecstatic. This is incredible news. As we embraced, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Michael's unconditional love and support washed over me, soothing my fears. But our moment of bliss was interrupted by a harsh knock at the door. Michael and I exchanged confused glances. Are you expecting someone? He asked. I shook my head, a sense of dread creeping over me. As I opened the door, my worst fears were confirmed. Jacob stood on my doorstep, his face a storm of emotions. Sarah, we need to talk. Now. I felt Michael come up behind me, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. Jacob, this isn't a good time, I said firmly. It's about Olivia, Jacob pressed. And the baby. I think there's something you should know. My hand instinctively went to my own stomach, where our little secret was growing. In that moment, I realized I had a crucial decision to make. Do I let Jacob back into my life, potentially disrupting the happiness I've found with Michael? Or do I close the door on my past once and for all, focusing solely on the future growing inside me? As I stood on the threshold between my past and my future, I knew that whatever choice I made would irrevocably change the course of not just my life, but the lives of everyone involved. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. Michael squeezed my hand reassuringly as we sat across from Jacob in a quiet corner of the local cafe. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Jacob began, his eyes darting between Michael and me. You wanted to talk. What's this about? I exchanged a glance with Michael, drawing strength from his steady presence. Jacob, we have some news. I paused, my hand instinctively moving to my stomach. I'm pregnant. Jacob's face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions, shock, disbelief, and then, to my horror, anger. Pregnant? He spat. How convenient. Let me guess, it's his. He jerked his head towards Michael. Of course it's mine, Michael said firmly, his arm tightening around me protectively. Jacob's eyes narrowed. Is it? Or are you just covering for her? After all, Sarah, we were still married not that long ago. I felt as if I'd been slapped. How dare you, I hissed, tears stinging my eyes. You have no right to accuse me of anything, not after what you did. What I did? Jacob laughed bitterly. At least I was honest about Olivia's pregnancy. You're trying to pass this off as his when we both know the timing doesn't add up. My world tilted on its axis. Olivia's pregnancy? I whispered, looking at Michael in confusion. He looked just as shocked as I felt. Jacob's face paled as he realized his mistake. You didn't know? No, I said, my voice barely audible. You never told me. You just showed up at my door, demanding to talk. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too crowded. I stood up abruptly, needing air. Michael rose with me, concern etched on his face. Sarah, wait, Jacob called as I rushed towards the exit. But I couldn't bear to hear another word. Outside, I gulped in the cool air, trying to make sense of everything. Michael's hands on my shoulders anchored me to reality. Sarah, look at me, he said gently. None of what Jacob said changes anything between us. I love you, and I love our baby. That's all that matters. I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. But Jacob's words had planted a seed of doubt that I couldn't shake. Michael, what if he's right about the timing? Michael's face softened. Sarah, even if that were true, which we don't know for sure, it wouldn't change how I feel. This is our child, no matter what. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlotte. Sarah, we need to talk. It's about Jacob and Olivia. Call me ASAP. My heart raced as I showed Michael the message. Just then, Jacob burst out of the cafe. Sarah, please, he pleaded. Let me explain. About Olivia, about everything. I felt torn between my past and my future, between the man who had betrayed me and the man who stood by me through everything. The weight of my unborn child seemed to press down on me, demanding a decision. Enough, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I'm done with your lies and manipulations, Jacob. Whatever is going on with you and Olivia, it's not my problem anymore. Jacob's face crumpled. But Sarah, there's more you need to know. About Olivia, about the baby. It's not what you think. As Jacob's words hung in the air, I felt the world closing in around me. My phone buzzed again, Charlotte's name flashing on the screen. Michael stood beside me, a pillar of strength. And Jacob, the man I once thought I'd spend my life with, looked more lost and desperate than I'd ever seen him. In that moment, I realized that the choice I made now would not only affect my life and the life of my unborn child, but would ripple out to touch everyone around me. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone, knowing that whatever Charlotte had to tell me could change everything once again. My hands shook as I dialed Charlotte's number, Michael's steady presence beside me, the only thing keeping me grounded. Jacob hovered nearby, his face a mask of anxiety. Sarah? Charlotte's voice crackled through the speaker. Thank God you called. You need to hear this. I put the phone on speaker, my heart racing. What's going on, Charlie? I just spoke with Olivia, Charlotte said, her voice tense. Sarah, she told me everything. Jacob's been lying to her too. Jacob's face paled. What? That's not. I held up a hand, silencing him. Go on, Charlotte. Olivia said Jacob told her he was separated from you, that your marriage was over in all but name. She had no idea you were still together when their affair started. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I stared at Jacob, seeing him clearly for the first time. Is this true? Jacob's shoulders slumped. Sarah, I can explain. Explain what? I snapped, fury rising in me. How you lied to both of us? How you manipulated everyone around you? Charlotte's voice cut through the tension. There's more, Sarah. Olivia, she's not sure the baby is Jacob's. A stunned silence fell over us. Jacob looked like he'd been punched in the gut. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She was seeing someone else around the same time, Charlotte explained. She thought Jacob was her only option, but now... I ended the call, my mind reeling. Everything I thought I knew was crumbling around me. Sarah, Jacob pleaded, reaching for me. I know I messed up, but I love you. I always have. Can't we... Stop, I said, my voice cold. Just stop, Jacob. I don't want to hear any more of your lies. Michael, who had been silent throughout this exchange, finally spoke up. I think you should leave, Jacob, now. Jacob's face hardened. This isn't over, Sarah. That baby could still be mine. You can't keep me away. As Jacob stormed off, I felt my knees give way. Michael caught me, holding me close as sobs racked my body. It's okay, he murmured. I'm here. We'll get through this together. But even as I clung to Michael, doubts crept in. What if Jacob was right? What if the baby was his? Could I trust anyone anymore? The next few days passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and sleepless nights. Michael was a constant source of support, but I could see the strain in his eyes. The uncertainty was taking its toll on both of us. Then one evening, as we sat in tense silence in my living room, a knock at the door shattered the quiet. I opened it to find Olivia standing there, her eyes red-rimmed and her hand resting protectively on her slightly swollen belly. "Sarah," she said, her voice trembling, "I'm so sorry. For everything. I need to talk to you." I hesitated, torn between slamming the door and hearing her out. Michael appeared behind me, his hand on my shoulder. "It's your call, Sarah," he said softly. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." Taking a deep breath, I stepped aside to let Olivia in. As she entered, her eyes darted nervously between Michael and me. "I know you probably hate me," Olivia began, "but there's something you need to know. About Jacob, about the baby, about everything." My heart pounded in my chest as I braced myself for whatever bombshell Olivia was about to drop. In that moment, I realized that the truth she was about to reveal could either shatter the fragile new life I was building or provide the closure I desperately needed to move forward. As Olivia took a shaky breath to begin her story, I felt the weight of my own unborn child, a silent reminder of everything at stake. Whatever came next, I knew my world would never be the same. The contractions hit me like a freight train, each one more intense than the last. I gripped Michael's hand tightly as we rushed to the hospital, my mind a whirlwind of fear and excitement. "You're doing great, Sarah," Michael reassured me, his voice steady despite the panic in his eyes. "We're almost there." As we burst through the hospital doors, I saw a familiar face, Charlotte, waiting anxiously in the lobby. She rushed to my side, her presence instantly calming. "I'm here, sweetie," she said, squeezing my free hand. "You've got this." The next few hours were a blur of pain, encouragement, and determination. Michael and Charlotte stood by me, unwavering in their support. As I pushed with all my might, I thought about the journey that had led me here, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the unexpected joy that had followed. Finally, with one last monumental effort, I heard it, the piercing cry of new life entering the world, my baby girl. She's beautiful, Michael whispered, tears streaming down his face as the nurse placed her in my arms. I looked down at my daughter, overwhelmed by the love that flooded through me. In that moment, all the pain and uncertainty of the past melted away. This was what mattered. This was my future. As I cradled my newborn, a soft knock at the door caught our attention. To my surprise, Olivia stood in the doorway, her own belly now prominently showing. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said hesitantly. I wanted to see if you were okay, and to apologize again for everything." I looked at Michael and Charlotte, who nodded encouragingly. "Come in, Olivia," I said softly. As Olivia approached, I saw the regret and sincerity in her eyes. "Sarah, I can't begin to express how sorry I am for the pain I caused you. I was so blinded by Jacob's lies, I didn't see the truth until it was too late." I took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "We were both victims of Jacob's deception, Olivia. It's time we both let go of that pain and focus on the future." Olivia's eyes filled with tears as she looked at my daughter. "She's gorgeous, Sarah. You and Michael must be so happy." Michael wrapped his arm around me, beaming with pride. "We are, and we're grateful for every step that led us here, even the painful ones." As we sat there, an unlikely group bonded by shared experiences and new beginnings, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Jacob's betrayal had shattered my world, but from those broken pieces I had built something stronger, more beautiful than I could have imagined. Charlotte broke the comfortable silence. "So what's this little angel's name?" I smiled, looking down at my daughter's peaceful face. "Hope," I said softly. "Her name is Hope." The room filled with murmurs of approval and gentle laughter. As I gazed at the faces around me, Michael, my rock and partner, Charlotte, my unwavering friend, and even Olivia, an unexpected ally, I realized that Hope wasn't just my daughter's name. It was what had carried me through the darkest times, what had led me to this moment of joy and new beginnings. "Welcome to the world, Hope," I whispered, kissing her forehead. "You are so loved." As the sun set outside the hospital window, casting a warm glow over the room, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The road had been long and painful, but it had led me here, to a place of love, forgiveness, and endless possibilities. With hope in my arms and my chosen family around me, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The future was bright, full of promise, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. As I drifted off to sleep, exhausted but content, I heard Michael's soft voice. "I love you both so much," he murmured, his hand gently stroking Hope's tiny fingers. In that moment, I knew that this love, this family, this new chapter, was everything I had ever wanted and more. The pain of the past had faded, replaced by a joy so profound it took my breath away. Hope stirred in my arms, her tiny yawn a reminder of the beautiful journey we were just beginning. And as I closed my eyes, I smiled, knowing that the best was yet to come. The sun shone brightly through the kitchen windows as I bustled about, preparing a hearty Sunday lunch for my family. The aroma of roasted chicken and freshly baked bread filled the air, and I couldn't help but smile. These moments of togetherness meant the world to me. As I set the table, my daughter Hannah walked in, her eyes red and puffy. My heart sank. "Mom, I don't know how to say this, but Peter, he's been having an affair for a long time. I found out last night." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I rushed to her side, enveloping her in a tight embrace. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down her face as she clung to me, her body shaking with sobs. The rest of the family trickled in, their chatter dying down as they sensed the somber atmosphere. "What's going on?" my son Michael asked, concern etched on his face. I took a deep breath. "Everyone, please sit down. We need to have a family discussion." As they gathered around the table, I held Hannah's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Hannah has just found out that Peter has been unfaithful to her for quite some time." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. My husband, David, slammed his fist on the table. "That bastard! How could he do this to our little girl?" Hannah's lower lip trembled. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I feel so lost." I looked her straight in the eye, my voice firm. "You listen to me, Hannah. You are not alone in this. We are here for you every step of the way. We will get through this together, as a family." Nods of agreement and words of support echoed around the table. Michael wrapped an arm around his sister's shoulders. "We've got your back, sis. Always." As the initial shock subsided, we began to discuss the next steps. I couldn't help but think back to my own troubled marriage with Hannah's father, Richard. The countless arguments, the cold shoulders, and the constant meddling from his mother, Agnes. It had been a difficult time, but I had emerged stronger, more resilient. I knew I had to be that pillar of strength for Hannah now. She needed me more than ever, and I was determined to guide her through this storm. "First things first," I said, my voice steady. "We need to make sure you and the children are safe, Hannah. If Peter's behavior escalates, we'll take legal action." Hannah nodded, wiping away her tears. "I never thought it would come to this, Mom. I always believed we could work through anything." I squeezed her hand again. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people change. And not always for the better. But you have to remember, this is not your fault. You deserve so much better than this." As the conversation continued, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Anger towards Peter for betraying my daughter, sadness for the pain she was going through, but also a fierce determination to protect her, to help her navigate this difficult chapter in her life. I glanced around the table, taking in the faces of my loved ones. This was what family was all about, being there for each other through the good times and the bad. And I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that we would weather this storm together. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the kitchen, I hugged Hannah tightly. "We'll take this one day at a time, sweetheart. You're not alone. You have all of us, and we will never let you fall." With those words, I silently vowed to be Hannah's rock, her guiding light through the darkness. Because that's what mothers do. We love, we protect, and we fight for our children, no matter what life throws our way. As I sat with Hannah in her living room, the weight of her revelation hung heavy in the air. My mind drifted back to my own troubled marriage with Richard, and the struggles I faced with his mother, Agnes. "I remember how Agnes treated me," I said softly, taking Hannah's hand in mine. "She never thought I was good enough, Hannah. Agnes always picked Richard's side, no matter how much I tried. You're not going through this alone." Hannah's eyes welled up with tears. "I just don't understand, Mom. How could Peter do this to me, to our family?" I sighed, the memories of my own pain resurfacing. Sometimes people change, sweetheart, and not always for the better, but you have to remember, this is not your fault. You deserve so much better than this. Just then the front door opened and Peter walked in, his face etched with annoyance. "What's going on here?" he demanded, eyeing me suspiciously. Hannah stood up, her voice trembling. "Peter, we need to talk about your affair." Peter's eyes widened and he scoffed. "I don't know what you're talking about, Hannah. You're being ridiculous." I couldn't hold back any longer. "Don't you dare lie to her, Peter. She knows the truth, and so do I." Peter's face reddened with anger. "This is none of your business, Nora. Stay out of it." I stood my ground, my voice firm. "It became my business the moment you broke my daughter's heart. How could you do this to her, to your children?" Peter rolled his eyes. "Oh, please, spare me the lecture. You have no idea what goes on in our marriage." Hannah's voice cut through the tension. "Enough, Peter. I can't do this anymore. I want you to leave." Peter's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious, Hannah. You're overreacting." I placed a supportive hand on Hannah's shoulder. "She's not overreacting, Peter. She's standing up for herself, for what's right." As Peter stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him, Hannah collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I'm so scared." I held her tightly, my heart breaking for my daughter. "I know, sweetheart, but you're not alone. We'll get through this together, I promise." The next day, I accompanied Hannah to her in-laws' house to break the news to Peter's mother, Elaine. As we sat in their pristine living room, Elaine's cold eyes bore into us. "What's this all about?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Hannah took a deep breath. "Elaine, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Peter has been having an affair." Elaine's eyes narrowed. "And you believe this nonsense, Hannah? Really?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "It's not nonsense, Elaine. Peter admitted it himself." Elaine scoffed. "Well, if it's true, then you must have done something to drive him away, Hannah. A man doesn't just cheat on his wife for no reason." Hannah's eyes filled with tears, and I felt a surge of anger course through me. "How dare you blame Hannah for this, Elaine? Your son is the one who broke his vows, who betrayed his family." Elaine stood up, her voice rising. "I will not sit here and listen to you accuse my son of such things. If your daughter couldn't keep her husband satisfied, that's her problem, not mine." As we left Elaine's house, I couldn't shake the feeling of déjà vu. The way she had spoken to Hannah, the blame she had placed on her, it was all too familiar. It was the same way Agnes had treated me during my marriage to Richard. I turned to Hannah, my resolve hardening. "We're not going to let them break you, sweetheart. You're stronger than they think. We'll find a way through this, together." As we drove home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in my daughter. She was facing her darkest hour with grace and strength, just as I had all those years ago. And I knew, without a doubt, that we would weather this storm, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. Weeks passed, and the situation only seemed to worsen. Peter had started openly dating his lover, Kate, a younger coworker, humiliating Hannah and further straining their marriage. I watched helplessly as my daughter's once vibrant spirit slowly diminished, replaced by a constant cloud of sadness and despair. One afternoon, I decided to visit Hannah, hoping to offer some comfort and support. As I walked into her house, I was greeted by the sound of raised voices coming from the living room. I cautiously made my way towards the commotion, only to find Hannah and Elaine engaged in a heated argument. "You've failed as a wife, Hannah. Peter deserves better," Elaine cruelly told her, her words dripping with venom. Hannah's eyes welled up with tears, and I felt a surge of anger course through my veins. I stepped forward, placing a protective arm around my daughter's shoulders. "How dare you speak to her like that, Elaine?" I said, my voice trembling with rage. "Can't you see how much she's hurting?" Elaine scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, please, Nora. Don't act like you're some saint. You couldn't keep your own husband happy, and now look at your daughter. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?" I felt as if I had been slapped. The painful memories of my own failed marriage came rushing back, threatening to overwhelm me, but I refused to let Elaine see me crumble. I had to be strong for Hannah's sake. "You're wrong, Elaine," I said, my voice steady. "Hannah is not to blame for Peter's actions. He made the choice to betray his family, and he alone bears that responsibility." Elaine rolled her eyes. Keep telling yourself that, Nora. But the truth is, if Hannah had been a better wife, none of this would have happened. With that, she stormed out of the house, leaving Hannah and me in stunned silence. I turned to my daughter, pulling her into a tight embrace as she sobbed against my shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I feel like such a failure." I pulled back, cupping her face in my hands. "Listen to me, Hannah. You are not a failure. You are a strong, beautiful woman who deserves so much better than this. We're going to get through this together, I promise." As the days turned into weeks, I watched as Peter continued to flaunt his affair, parading Kate around town like some sort of trophy. Elaine, ever the enabler, stood by his side, defending his actions and blaming Hannah for the breakdown of their marriage. I felt my resolve harden with each passing day. I couldn't stand by and watch my daughter suffer any longer. I had to do something, anything, to help her break free from this toxic situation. One evening, as I sat with Hannah in her living room, I broached the subject of separation. "Hannah, sweetheart, I know this is difficult, but have you considered leaving Peter? You don't have to continue living like this." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "I've thought about it, Mom, but I'm so scared. What about the children? What will people think?" I took her hand in mine, my voice firm. "The only thing that matters is your happiness and well-being, Hannah. You have to do what's best for you and the kids, and as for what people think, to hell with them. You have nothing to be ashamed of." Hannah nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "You're right, Mom. I can't keep living like this. I need to be strong, for myself and for Emily and Jason." I smiled, pride swelling in my chest. "That's my girl. We're going to get through this, Hannah. You're stronger than you think. We'll find a way." As I left Hannah's house that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing on the horizon. But I knew without a doubt that we would weather it together, no matter what challenges lay ahead. My daughter's happiness and freedom were worth fighting for, and I was ready to do whatever it took to help her reclaim her life. In the weeks that followed, I watched as Hannah slowly began to push back against Peter and Elaine's toxic influence. Encouraged by my unwavering support, she started to stand up for herself, refusing to be a victim any longer. One afternoon, as we sat in my kitchen sipping tea, Hannah confided in me about her plan to gather evidence of Peter's infidelity. "I need to protect Emily and Jason, Mom," she said, her voice trembling. "If we do end up separating, I want to make sure I have proof of Peter's affair to ensure the kids stay with me." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride at my daughter's strength and determination. "You're doing the right thing, Hannah. You don't have to continue living like this. We're stronger than they think. We will find a way." Just then, the doorbell rang. I excused myself and went to answer it, surprised to find my sister Diane standing on the other side. "Diane, what a pleasant surprise. Come in, come in." As we settled back in the kitchen, Diane's eyes fell on Hannah, and she immediately sensed that something was amiss. "What's going on, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Hannah took a deep breath and began to recount the events of the past few months, from Peter's affair to Elaine's cruel treatment. As she spoke, I could see the anger and empathy building in Diane's eyes. "Oh, Hannah," she said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. But you know what? You're not alone. I've been there too." Hannah's eyes widened. "You have?" Diane nodded, a sad smile on her face. "Years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me. It was the most painful experience of my life. But you know what I learned? That I was stronger than I ever thought possible. And so are you, Hannah." As Diane shared her own story of betrayal and resilience, I could see the glimmer of hope returning to Hannah's eyes. She had always looked up to Diane as a mother figure, and hearing that she had overcome a similar situation seemed to give her the strength she needed to keep fighting. Over the next few days, Hannah and I worked together to gather evidence of Peter's affair. We compiled text messages, emails, and even hired a private investigator to capture photos of Peter and Kate together. It was a difficult and emotionally draining process, but we knew it was necessary to protect Hannah and the children. As we sat in my living room, sorting through the evidence, Hannah suddenly broke down in tears. "I can't believe this is happening, Mom," she sobbed. "I never thought I'd be in this position, fighting for my marriage, my family." I pulled her into a tight embrace, stroking her hair as she cried. I know, sweetheart, it's not fair, but you're doing the right thing. You're standing up for yourself, for your happiness. And that takes an incredible amount of courage. Hannah pulled back, wiping her tears. But what about Emily and Jason? They need their father. Am I being selfish, putting my own happiness above their needs? I shook my head, my voice firm. Absolutely not, Hannah. Your children need a mother who is happy, healthy, and respected. They need to see you standing up for yourself, showing them that it's never okay to accept abuse or infidelity. You're setting an example for them, one of strength and self-worth. As the days turned into weeks, I watched as Hannah continued to gather her strength, preparing herself for the battle ahead. She knew that confronting Peter and Elaine would not be easy, but she was determined to reclaim her life, to build a better future for herself and her children. And through it all, I was there by her side, along with Diane, offering our unwavering support and love. We were a team, a united front against the darkness that threatened to tear our family apart. And together, we would find a way to overcome, to emerge stronger than ever before. The day I received a frantic call from Hannah, I knew something was terribly wrong. Her voice was shaking, and I could hear the tears in her words as she spoke. Mom, I need you to come over right away. It's Peter. He's gone too far this time. I didn't hesitate for a moment. I grabbed my keys and rushed to Hannah's house, my heart pounding in my chest. When I arrived, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale and her eyes red from crying. What happened, sweetheart? I asked, taking a seat beside her. Hannah took a deep breath, her hands trembling. I found out that Peter is planning to move Kate into our home. He wants her to live with us, to be a part of our family. I felt a surge of anger course through my veins. How could Peter be so cruel, so selfish, to not only betray his wife, but to flaunt his affair in front of his children, in the home they shared as a family? I confronted him about it, Hannah continued, her voice growing stronger. I told him that if he wants to be with Kate, he can have her, but he will not turn our home into some playground for his affair. I nodded, pride swelling in my chest. Good for you, Hannah. You did the right thing, standing up for yourself and your children. But even as I spoke those words, I could see the fear in Hannah's eyes. She knew that this confrontation was only the beginning, that Peter and Elaine would not take her defiance lying down. And she was right. In the days that followed, Peter's backlash was fierce. He raged at Hannah, calling her unstable, unfit to be a mother. He threatened to take the children away from her, to paint her as a villain in the eyes of the court. Elaine, ever the manipulator, only fueled the flames. She whispered poisonous words in Peter's ear, telling him that Hannah was trying to destroy their family, that she was a danger to their children. I watched as Hannah struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy for Emily and Jason, even as the tension in the house reached a boiling point. She put on a brave face for them, reading them bedtime stories and helping them with their homework, all while Peter and Elaine's cruelty loomed over her like a dark cloud. But through it all, Hannah remained strong. She leaned on me and Diane for support, finding solace in our unwavering love and encouragement. And slowly but surely, I could see a change in her, a newfound resilience and determination that refused to be broken. One evening, as we sat together in my living room, Hannah turned to me with a fire in her eyes. I want a separation, Mom. I can't keep living like this in a house filled with so much hatred and betrayal. I took her hand in mine, squeezing it tightly. I'm so proud of you, Hannah. You're doing the right thing for yourself and for your children. Hannah nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. I know it won't be easy, Mom. Peter and Elaine will fight me every step of the way, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready to take my life back, to build a better future for myself and my kids. As I looked at my daughter, I saw a strength in her that I had never seen before. She had been through so much, endured so much pain and heartache, but she had emerged from it all with a fierce determination to reclaim her happiness. And I knew in that moment that no matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter how hard Peter and Elaine tried to break her, Hannah would never give up. She would keep fighting, keep pushing forward, until she had built the life she deserved, a life filled with love, respect, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As the weeks turned into months, Diane, Hannah, and I worked tirelessly to gather evidence of Peter's infidelity and expose his true nature to the world. We knew that the only way to truly break free from his manipulation and cruelty was to reveal the truth, to show everyone the man he really was behind closed doors. It wasn't easy. Peter was clever, always careful to cover his tracks and maintain his public image as a devoted husband and father. But we were determined, driven by a fierce desire to protect Hannah and her children from any further harm. We started by hiring a private investigator, someone who could discreetly follow Peter and Kate and capture their indiscretions on camera. It was a risky move, but one we knew was necessary to build a strong case against him. As the evidence began to mount, I could see a change in Hannah. She walked with her head held high, a newfound confidence in her step. She was no longer the broken, defeated woman she had been just months before, but a fierce warrior, ready to fight for her freedom and her family. One evening, as we sat together in Diane's living room, poring over the latest batch of photos and videos, I turned to Hannah with a determined look in my eye. It's time everyone sees Peter for who he really is. He can't keep hiding behind his lies. Hannah nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. I'm ready, Mom. Let's do this. The next day we put our plan into action. We sent the evidence to Peter's employer, his colleagues, and even his friends and family. We posted it on social media, making sure that everyone in his circle saw the truth about the man they thought they knew. The response was immediate and explosive. Peter's reputation crumbled overnight as the community reeled from the shock of his betrayal. His employer fired him on the spot, disgusted by his behavior and the damage it had caused to their company's image. Elaine, too, felt the backlash of her son's actions. Her social circle began to shun her, appalled by her unwavering support of Peter's reprehensible behavior. She was left isolated and alone, forced to confront the consequences of her own manipulation and cruelty. But perhaps the most surprising development was Kate's reaction. When the evidence of her affair with Peter went public, she panicked, fearing the damage it would cause to her own reputation. In a moment of self-preservation, she abandoned Peter, leaving him to face the fallout alone. I watched as Peter's world crumbled around him as he lost his job, his lover, and his standing in the community. A part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, seeing him finally face the consequences of his actions. But mostly, I just felt relief. Relief that Hannah was finally free from his grip, that she could start to rebuild her life without fear or manipulation. As the dust began to settle, I sat with Hannah in her living room, holding her hand tightly in mine. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You did it. You broke free. Hannah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom, without you and Diane. You gave me the strength to keep fighting, even when I thought I had nothing left. I pulled her into a tight embrace, my own tears falling freely. That's what family is for, Hannah. We lift each other up. We fight for each other, no matter what. As we sat there, holding each other close, I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and obstacles to overcome, wounds to heal and trust to rebuild. But I also knew that Hannah was strong enough to face whatever lay ahead, that she had the love and support of her family to guide her through. And as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the bright future that awaited her. A future free from pain and betrayal, filled with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Just when I thought the worst was behind us, Elaine showed up at my doorstep, her face a mask of fury and desperation. I hadn't seen her since the truth about Peter's affair had come to light, and I knew that her sudden appearance could only mean trouble. We need to talk, Nora, she said, pushing past me and into the living room. This family is falling apart, and we need to put this behind us. I followed her inside, my guard up and my resolve firm. And how do you propose we do that, Elaine? Your son has caused immeasurable pain to my daughter and her children. There's no easy fix for that. Elaine whirled around, her eyes narrowing. Don't you dare put all the blame on Peter. Hannah played a role in this mess, too. If she had been a better wife, none of this would have happened. I felt my blood boil at her words, the same twisted logic she had been using for months to justify Peter's actions. How dare you, Elaine? Hannah has done nothing but love and support your son, even when he didn't deserve it. She is not to blame for his choices. Elaine scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. Oh, please. Hannah has always been weak, always playing the victim. It's time she took responsibility for her own failings. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, Hannah emerged from the kitchen, her eyes blazing with a fierce determination I had never seen before. Enough, Elaine, she said, her voice steady and strong. I am done letting you manipulate and control me. I am done letting you make excuses for Peter's behavior. This ends now. Elaine's eyes widened in surprise, clearly not expecting Hannah's newfound strength. Hannah, be reasonable. We need to think about the family, about the children. Hannah shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. That's exactly what I'm doing, Elaine. I'm thinking about my children's well-being, about the kind of example I want to set for them. And that example is one of strength, of self-respect, of refusing to accept abuse and betrayal. I watched in awe as Hannah stood tall, her shoulders squared, and her head held high. She was no longer the broken, defeated woman she had been just months before, but a fierce warrior, ready to fight for her happiness and her family. Elaine's face twisted in anger, her manipulative facade crumbling before our eyes. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By tearing this family apart. I stepped forward, placing a protective arm around Hannah's shoulders. No, Elaine, you tore this family apart the moment you chose to enable and defend Peter's actions. You have no one to blame but yourself. Elaine's eyes darted between us, desperation and fury warring in her gaze. But as she looked at Hannah, at the unwavering strength and determination in her eyes, she seemed to deflate, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Fine, she spat, turning on her heel and storming towards the door. Have it your way. But don't come crying to me when you realize what a mistake you've made. As the door slammed behind her, I turned to Hannah, my heart swelling with pride and love. I am so proud of you, sweetheart. You stood up for yourself, for your children. You showed her that she no longer has any power over you. Hannah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom, without your love and support. You gave me the strength to keep fighting, even when I thought I had nothing left. I pulled her into a tight embrace, my own tears falling freely. That's what mothers do, Hannah. We fight for our children, no matter what. As we held each other close, I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and obstacles to overcome, wounds to heal, and trust to rebuild. But I also knew that Hannah was strong enough to face whatever lay ahead, that she had the love and support of her family to guide her through. And as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the bright future that awaited her, a future free from pain and betrayal, filled with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Months had passed since Hannah's confrontation with Elaine, and life had slowly begun to settle into a new normal. With the help of Diane and me, Hannah had found a cozy new home for herself, Emily and Jason, far away from the painful memories of her old life with Peter. As I pulled up to Hannah's new house, I couldn't help but smile at the sight of Emily and Jason playing in the front yard, their laughter ringing out like music in the warm summer air. Hannah stood on the porch, watching them with a contented smile on her face, and I felt my heart swell with pride and love. Grandma? Emily and Jason shouted as I stepped out of the car, running to greet me with open arms. I scooped them up in a big hug, planting kisses on their cheeks. Oh, how I've missed you two. Look at how big you've gotten. Hannah walked over to join us, her smile widening as she watched our joyful reunion. They've been asking about you all week, Mom. They couldn't wait for your visit. I wrapped an arm around Hannah's shoulders, giving her a squeeze, and I couldn't wait to see all of you. This new place looks wonderful, sweetheart. You've done an amazing job making it a home. As we walked inside, I marveled at the warmth and love that seemed to radiate from every corner of the house. Family photos lined the walls, and the air was filled with the delicious aroma of Hannah's cooking. We settled around the dinner table, passing dishes and sharing stories, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of deep contentment wash over me. This was what family was all about. Love, laughter, and the unbreakable bonds that tied us together. As the evening wore on, Hannah put the children to bed and joined Diane and me in the living room, a peaceful smile on her face. "I never thought I could feel this happy again," she said softly. "After everything that happened with Peter and Elaine, I wasn't sure I'd ever find my way back to a place of joy and stability." Diane reached over and took Hannah's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "But you did, sweetheart. You found your strength, your resilience. You fought for your happiness, and look at where it's brought you." I nodded, my own eyes filling with tears. "Diane is right, Hannah. You've come so far, and I am so incredibly proud of you. You've shown your children what it means to be brave, to stand up for yourself and your happiness." Hannah smiled, her own tears spilling over. "I couldn't have done it without you both. Your love and support have meant everything to me. I don't know where I'd be without my family." As we sat there, basking in the warmth and love of our little family, I couldn't help but think back on the journey that had brought us to this moment. It had been a road filled with pain and heartache, with betrayal and loss. But through it all, we had held on to each other, drawing strength from the unbreakable bonds of family. Suddenly the phone rang, breaking the peaceful silence. Hannah frowned as she glanced at the caller ID, her face growing pale. "It's Elaine," she said softly. I felt a flicker of anger and protectiveness surge through me, but Hannah just shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. "You know what? I don't need to answer that. I don't owe her anything." With a decisive click, she silenced the phone and turned back to us, her eyes shining with a newfound strength and peace. "This is our fresh start, kids. We're going to be just fine." As I looked around at the faces of my loved ones, I knew that Hannah was right. We had each other, and that was all that mattered. The bonds of family had proven unbreakable, and together we could weather any storm that came our way. And as we sat there laughing and talking late into the night, I felt a sense of deep gratitude wash over me. We had emerged from the darkness stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. And I knew, without a doubt, that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together as a family. The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of my kitchen. I wiped my hands on my apron and answered, expecting to hear Rachel's cheerful voice. Instead, my daughter's sobs crackled through the speaker. "Mom, I can't stand living here anymore," Rachel wailed. "They treat me like a stranger and won't let me visit Dad." My heart clenched. "Sweetheart, slow down. What's going on?" "Aunt Linda and Uncle Gary," she hiccuped. "They're awful. I feel like a prisoner." I gripped the counter, steadying myself. "What do you mean they won't let you visit your father?" "They say he's a bad influence," Rachel sniffled, "that I shouldn't waste my time with him. Mom, I want to come home." "Of course, honey," I said, my mind racing. "We'll figure this out, I promise." As soon as we hung up, I dialed Robert's number. My husband answered on the third ring, his voice gruff. "Evelyn? What's wrong?" "It's Rachel," I said. "She just called hysterical. Did you know Linda and Gary have been keeping her from seeing you?" Robert sighed heavily. "Come on, Ev, you know how dramatic teenagers can be." "This isn't drama, Robert," I snapped. "Your sister is manipulating our daughter, again." "Now, hold on," he started, but I cut him off. "No, you hold on. Our daughter is hurting and you're defending Linda. When are you going to put our family first?" The line went quiet for a moment. "Let me talk to Linda," Robert finally said. "I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I'm sure there has been, but not the kind you're thinking." After hanging up, I paced the kitchen, my mind whirling. Linda had always been a thorn in my side, but this was a new low. I thought back to the day Rachel announced she was moving in with her aunt and uncle. Linda had been so sickeningly sweet, promising to guide Rachel through her college years. The doorbell startled me from my thoughts. I opened the front door to find my best friend, Patricia, holding a bottle of wine. "I could hear you fuming from down the street," she said with a wry smile. "Thought you might need this." I ushered her inside, grateful for the company. As we settled on the couch, I filled Patricia in on Rachel's call and Robert's dismissive response. Patricia's eyes widened. "That witch," she muttered. "And Robert's still making excuses for her?" I nodded, taking a long sip of wine. "I don't know what to do, Pat. I can't just sit here while Linda poisons Rachel against us." "Then don't," Patricia said firmly. "Fight back. You've let Linda walk all over you for years. It's time to show her you're not going to take it anymore." I stared at my friend, a mix of fear and determination bubbling up inside me. "You're right," I said slowly. "But how?" Patricia leaned forward, her eyes glinting. "We start digging. Linda's bound to have skeletons in her closet. Find them and use them." As we brainstormed, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Aunt Linda took my phone, using Gary's iPad. Please help." My hands shook as I showed Patricia the message. "That's it," I said, standing up. "I'm going over there right now." Patricia grabbed my arm. "Wait, Evelyn, we need a plan. Charging in there will only make things worse." I sank back onto the couch, deflated. "You're right, but I can't just abandon Rachel." "We won't," Patricia assured me. "But we need to be smart about this. Linda's played this game for years. It's time to beat her at it." As we plotted our next move, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long, painful battle. But for Rachel's sake, I was ready to fight. Linda had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I marched into Robert's study, determined to make him see reason. He looked up from his laptop, his brow furrowing at my expression. "We need to talk about Rachel," I said, my voice tight with frustration. Robert sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Evelyn, I told you it's just teenage drama. Linda wouldn't." "Stop defending her!" I snapped. "Our daughter is miserable, and you're brushing it off like it's nothing." "You're overreacting," Robert said, his tone patronizing. "Rachel's always been sensitive. She'll adjust." I felt my temper flare. "Overreacting? Robert, they're controlling her every move. How can you not see what's happening?" Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Rachel, using Gary's iPad again. My heart raced as I read her message. "Uncle Gary told me you and Dad are planning to divorce. Is it true?" I showed Robert the text, watching the color drain from his face. "Still think I'm overreacting?" I asked coldly. Robert's jaw clenched. "I'll talk to Gary. This is getting out of hand." "Getting out of hand?" I laughed bitterly. "It's been out of hand since the day Rachel moved in with them. Why can't you stand up to your sister for once?" "You don't understand," Robert muttered, avoiding my gaze. "It's complicated." "Then explain it to me," I demanded. "What hold does Linda have over you?" Robert's silence spoke volumes. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized there was more to this story than I knew. "Robert," I said slowly, "what aren't you telling me?" He opened his mouth to respond when Rachel burst through the front door, tears streaming down her face. We rushed to meet her in the hallway. "Rachel, honey, what happened?" I asked, pulling her into a hug. Between sobs, she choked out, I heard Aunt Linda on the phone. She was talking about Dad, about some woman named Melissa." I felt Robert stiffen beside me. "What about Melissa?" he asked, his voice strained. Rachel looked up at him, her eyes wide. She said you had an affair with her, that you have another kid." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I stumbled back, staring at Robert in disbelief. "Is this true?" Robert's face crumpled. "Evelyn, I can explain." I cut him off, my voice ice cold. "Just don't." Rachel looked between us, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have said anything." I pulled her close, stroking her hair. "No, sweetheart, you did the right thing. This isn't your fault." Robert reached out, but I flinched away. "Both of you, just give me a minute," I said, retreating to the kitchen. My hands shook as I gripped the counter, trying to process this bombshell. An affair, another child. How long had Linda known? How long had she been using this to manipulate Robert? I heard hushed voices from the hallway, then footsteps approaching. Robert appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of guilt and fear. "Evelyn," he began, "I know I've made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You call this a mistake? How long, Robert? How long have you been lying to me?" He flinched at my words. "It was years ago, before Rachel was born. I never meant for any of this to happen." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "And Linda's known all this time, hasn't she? That's why you always take her side. She's been blackmailing you." Robert's silence was all the confirmation I needed. I felt a surge of determination, tinged with rage. "Well," I said, straightening up, "it ends now. I won't let Linda use this to control our family anymore. And you," I pointed at Robert, "you have a lot of explaining to do. To me and to your daughter." As I brushed past him to comfort Rachel, I realized this was just the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The annual Parker family barbecue was always a tense affair, but this year The air crackled with unspoken accusations and barely concealed hostility. I stood at the grill, flipping burgers with more force than necessary, my eyes constantly darting to Linda's smug face across the yard. Rachel huddled near me, her eyes downcast. "Mom, I don't want to be here," she whispered. "I know, sweetie," I murmured. "We'll leave soon, I promise." Robert approached, his face a mask of forced cheerfulness. "Everything okay over here?" Before I could answer, Linda sauntered over, Gary trailing behind her like an obedient puppy. "Oh, Robert," she cooed. "I was just telling everyone how proud we are of Rachel. She's become such a wonderful little housekeeper at our place." I felt Rachel stiffen beside me. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. Linda's smile was saccharine. "Well, she's just so good at keeping things tidy. Dishes, laundry, you name it. We hardly have to lift a finger anymore." "That's not Rachel's job," I snapped. "She's there to focus on her studies, not be your maid." "Now, Evelyn," Linda skied, "don't be so sensitive. Rachel needs to learn responsibility." "Responsibility?" I echoed, my temper flaring. "Is that what you call exploiting my daughter?" Robert stepped between us. "Ladies, please, this isn't the time or place." I rounded on him. "And when is the time, Robert? When are you going to stand up for your daughter?" The gathering had gone quiet, all eyes on our little group. Linda's smile never wavered. "Your daughter is just like you, Evelyn, always overreacting." Something inside me snapped. "Overreacting? You've been manipulating and controlling Rachel since the day she moved in. You've restricted her allowance, cut her off from her friends, and now I find out you've been using her as free labor?" Linda's eyes narrowed. "You ungrateful little—" "That's enough!" Robert's voice boomed across the yard. For a moment, I thought he was finally taking our side, but then he turned to me, his expression cold. "Evelyn, you're making a scene. Maybe you should take Rachel home." I stared at him in disbelief. "You're still defending her? After everything?" Rachel tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, please, can we just go?" I nodded, my heart breaking for my daughter. As we turned to leave, Linda called out, "Oh, Rachel, dear, don't forget you promised to help me with the church fundraiser next weekend." Rachel froze. I can't," she stammered. "I have plans with Mom." Linda's eyes glittered. "But you promised, dear, you wouldn't want to disappoint the whole congregation, would you?" I saw the conflict on Rachel's face and made a split-second decision. "Actually, Linda," I said, my voice steady, "Rachel won't be available. She's moving back home, today." The silence that followed was deafening. Linda's face contorted with rage. "You can't do that," she hissed. "Watch me," I retorted, putting an arm around Rachel's shoulders. As we walked away, I heard Linda's shrill voice behind us. "Robert, are you going to let her do this? After everything we've done for you?" I didn't wait to hear Robert's response. In the car, Rachel burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have told you sooner about everything." I squeezed her hand. "This isn't your fault, sweetheart. We're going to fix this, I promise." As we drove home, my mind raced. I knew this was far from over. Linda wouldn't let Rachel go without a fight, and I had a sinking feeling that Robert would once again side with his sister. But looking at Rachel's tear-stained face, I felt a fierce determination well up inside me. No matter what it took, I would protect my daughter and expose Linda's manipulations. The gloves were off, and I was ready for battle. The moment Robert walked through the door that evening, I was ready for him. Rachel had gone to bed early, exhausted from the day's events, leaving us alone to confront the elephant in the room. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. Robert sighed, loosening his tie. "Evelyn, if this is about the barbecue—" "This is about everything," I cut him off. "Your sister, your daughter, your complete inability to stand up for your family." His face hardened. "That's not fair. You know how complicated things are with Linda." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly. "What I know is that our daughter was miserable living with her, and you did nothing." "Linda was trying to help," Robert argued weakly. I felt my temper flare. Help? By treating Rachel like a servant? By cutting her off from her friends and family? "You're exaggerating," he muttered, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. "Am I?" I challenged. "Then explain to me why you stood there and let Linda humiliate me in front of everyone, why you're always taking her side over ours." Robert's shoulders slumped. "It's not that simple, Evelyn. Linda, she knows things. About me, about our family, things that could destroy us if they came out." I felt a chill run down my spine. What things, Robert? What could possibly justify letting your sister treat your daughter this way? He opened his mouth to respond when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Linda. You think you've won? Think again. Rachel comes back, or everyone learns Robert's dirty little secret. I showed Robert the message, watching the color drain from his face. What secret, Robert? I demanded. What does she have on you? He collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. I made a mistake years ago. Before Rachel was born, there was another woman, and there's a child. Linda's the only one who knows. The room seemed to spin. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. You have another child? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Robert nodded miserably. I've been paying child support in secret all these years. Linda found out, and she's been using it to control me ever since. Rage and betrayal warred within me. How could you keep this from me? From Rachel? I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid of losing you, of hurting Rachel. Linda swore she'd keep it secret if I did what she wanted. And what she wanted was to control our lives, I said bitterly. To drive a wedge between us and Rachel. Robert reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Evelyn, please. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I love you and Rachel more than anything. We can fix this. I stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time in years. A man torn between loyalty to his sister and love for his family, paralyzed by fear and guilt. You're right, I said slowly. We can fix this, but not by giving in to Linda's blackmail. Robert's eyes widened. What are you saying? I straightened up, a plan forming in my mind. I'm saying it's time we take control of our own story. We tell Rachel the truth, all of it, and then we confront Linda together. But the scandal, the family. The family is already in shambles, I interrupted. At least this way we're being honest. It's the only way to break Linda's hold over us. Robert looked terrified, but I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. You'd stand by me, even after learning this? I took a deep breath. I'm furious with you, Robert, but I love our family too much to let Linda destroy it. We'll deal with your betrayal, but first we need to unite against the real enemy. As I spoke the words, I felt a surge of determination. The path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt like we had a fighting chance. Okay, Robert said quietly. Let's do it. Let's tell Rachel everything. I nodded, steeling myself for the conversation that would change our family forever. Whatever came next, we would face it together. The morning after our confrontation, Robert and I sat Rachel down to tell her everything. Her face crumpled as Robert confessed to his affair and the existence of her half-sibling. I held her hand tightly, my heart breaking as I watched her world shift beneath her feet. Why now? Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why tell me this after all these years? I took a deep breath. Because Aunt Linda has been using this information to control us, sweetheart, and we're not going to let her do that anymore. Rachel's eyes flashed with anger. So that's why you always let her walk all over us, Dad? Because you were afraid of your own mistakes? Robert nodded, shame etched across his face. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I thought I was protecting our family, but I was just making things worse. As we talked through the implications, my phone buzzed incessantly. I ignored it, focusing on comforting Rachel. But when I finally checked, my blood ran cold. Linda had been busy. There were messages from family members, friends, even our neighbors, all of them expressing shock, disappointment, and in some cases outright disgust. Linda had spread the news of Robert's affair far and wide, twisting the narrative to paint me as the villain who had torn the family apart by overreacting to an ancient indiscretion. She's turned everyone against us, I said, my voice shaking with fury and disbelief. Rachel grabbed my phone, scrolling through the messages with wide eyes. How could she do this? Doesn't she care about how this affects me? Linda only cares about control, Robert said bitterly. She's always been that way, even when we were kids. I stood up, pacing the room as my mind raced. We need to fight back. We can't let her narrative be the only one out there. Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Patricia, her face etched with concern. Evelyn, I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay? I ushered her in, grateful for a friendly face. As we filled Patricia in on the full story, including Robert's confession, her expression hardened. This ends now, Patricia declared. Linda's gone too far. We need to expose her for the manipulative snake she is. Rachel, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I want to help. I'm tired of being a pawn in Aunt Linda's games." I looked at my daughter, seeing a determination in her eyes that mirrored my own. "Are you sure, sweetheart? This could get ugly." She nodded firmly. "I'm sure, Mom, it's time we stood up for ourselves." As we began to strategize, another text came through. This time it was from Gary, Linda's husband. "Evelyn, we need to talk. Linda's gone too far. I have information that could help you." I showed the message to the others, a mix of hope and suspicion coursing through me. Could this be the break we needed, or another of Linda's traps? "It could be a setup," Robert warned. "Or it could be our chance to turn the tables," Patricia countered. I looked at each of their faces, Robert's guilt-ridden but determined, Rachel's fierce and ready for battle, Patricia's supportive and strategic. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. "I'm meeting Gary," I announced. "But I'm not going alone. We're in this together now." As we prepared to face whatever Gary had in store, I felt a shift in the air. The fear and shame that had clouded our family for so long was lifting, replaced by a united front against Linda's tyranny. "Whatever happens," I said, looking at my family and friend, "we face it as one. Linda's reign of manipulation ends today." With those words, we stepped out into the uncertain future, ready to reclaim our lives and our family's honor. The battle ahead would be tough, but for the first time in years I felt hope blooming in my chest. We had the truth on our side, and together we were stronger than any lie Linda could spin. The cafe where we agreed to meet Gary was bustling with the lunch crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My heart pounded as I sat with Patricia, Robert, and Rachel, waiting for Linda's husband to arrive. "Are you sure about this?" Robert asked for the 100th time. I nodded, my jaw set. "We need to know what Gary has to say. It might be our only chance to turn the tables on Linda." Rachel squeezed my hand. "We're with you, Mom, no matter what." Just then Gary walked in, looking nervous and disheveled. He slid into the booth, his eyes darting around as if expecting Linda to appear at any moment. "Thank you for meeting us," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You said you had information?" Gary nodded, pulling out a USB drive. "Linda's gone too far this time. I can't be part of it anymore. This drive contains financial records, emails, everything that shows how Linda's been manipulating the family for years." My hands shook as I took the drive. "Why are you doing this, Gary? Why now?" He looked down, shame etched across his face. "I should have done it years ago. But Linda, she has a way of making you feel like you have no choice. But when she started messing with Rachel's future, I knew I had to do something." "What do you mean, messing with my future?" Rachel asked, her voice sharp. Gary sighed heavily. "Linda's been siphoning money from your grandfather's estate, money that was meant for your education, Rachel. She's been using it to fund her own lifestyle and to keep people in line." The shock around the table was palpable. Patricia was the first to recover. "We need to go through those files immediately. If what Gary's saying is true, we have more than enough to expose Linda's manipulations." As we prepared to leave, Gary grabbed my arm. "Be careful, Evelyn. Linda's desperate. She knows she's losing control, and that makes her dangerous." I nodded, a chill running down my spine. "Thank you, Gary, for everything." Back at home, we huddled around my laptop as Patricia, tech-savvy as ever, combed through the files on the drive. With each document she opened, the depth of Linda's deceit became clearer. "Look at this," Patricia said, pointing to an email chain. "Linda's been blackmailing half the family. She's got dirt on everyone, and she's been using it to keep them in line." Rachel gasped as she read over Patricia's shoulder. "She even tried to sabotage my college applications. How could she do this?" I felt a rage building inside me, hot and fierce, because she's a control freak who can't stand the idea of anyone challenging her power. As we delved deeper into Linda's web of lies, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "I know what you're doing. Meet me at the old boathouse in an hour, or everything you care about goes up in flames." I showed the others, watching their faces pale. "It has to be Linda," Robert said. "She must have found out about Gary." "You can't go," Rachel pleaded. "It's too dangerous." But I knew I had no choice. This was our chance to end Linda's reign of terror once and for all. "I have to," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "But I'm not going alone. We face this together, remember?" As we piled into the car, heading towards the confrontation that would change everything, I felt a mix of fear and determination. Linda had pushed us to the brink, but we were pushing back. Whatever happened at that boathouse, I knew one thing for certain. Our family would never be the same again. The old boathouse loomed before us, dark and foreboding against the setting sun. As we approached, I gripped the USB drive in my pocket, our secret weapon against Linda's years of manipulation. This was it, the moment of truth. With a deep breath, I pushed open the creaking door, ready to face whatever Linda had in store for us. As we entered the dimly lit boathouse, my heart pounded in my chest. Linda stood in the center, her face a mask of fury and desperation. Gary hovered behind her, looking torn and afraid. Well, Linda sneered. The whole gang's here. How touching. I stepped forward, gripping the USB drive in my pocket. It's over, Linda. We know everything. She laughed, a brittle sound that sent chills down my spine. You think you know everything? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Robert moved to stand beside me. Linda, please, this has gone on long enough. Let's talk about this like family. Family, Linda spat. You gave up the right to call me family when you chose her over me. She pointed at me, her eyes blazing with hatred. Rachel stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. Aunt Linda, why? Why did you try to sabotage my future? For a moment, Linda's mask slipped, revealing a flicker of shame, but it was quickly replaced by cold anger. Because you're just like your mother, always taking what should have been mine. What are you talking about? I demanded. Linda's laugh was bitter. Oh, poor naive Evelyn. Did you really think Robert chose you? He was supposed to marry my best friend. I had it all planned out, but then you came along and ruined everything. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I turned to Robert, searching his face for the truth. He looked stricken. Linda, that was years ago. I fell in love with Evelyn. It had nothing to do with your plans. Liar! Linda shrieked. She pulled out a gun, waving it wildly. You've all ruined everything, but I'm not going down alone. Time seemed to slow down. I saw Rachel's terrified face, Robert's protective stance, Patricia's hand reaching for her phone, and in that moment I knew what I had to do. Linda, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I have proof of everything you've done, the blackmail, the stolen money, all of it. I pulled out the USB drive. If anything happens to us, this information goes public. You'll lose everything. Linda's hand wavered, the gun shaking in her grip. You're bluffing. Am I? I took a step closer, my heart racing. You've spent years manipulating this family, Linda, but it ends now. We're not your puppets anymore. Gary suddenly moved, grabbing Linda's arm. She's right, Linda. It's over. Please, don't make this worse. For a tense moment, I thought Linda might pull the trigger anyway, but then, like a deflating balloon, all the fight seemed to leave her. The gun clattered to the floor, and she collapsed into sobs. As Gary comforted his wife, I turned to my family. Rachel threw herself into my arms, crying with relief. Robert embraced us both, whispering apologies and words of love. Patricia, ever practical, was already on the phone with the police. It's done, she mouthed to me over Rachel's shoulder. As we waited for the authorities to arrive, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. We had faced our demons and come out the other side. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trusts to rebuild. But for the first time in years, I felt hope blossoming in my chest. Linda's reign of terror was over. Our family had been tested, pushed to the brink, but we had survived. As I held my daughter and husband close, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The sound of sirens in the distance signaled the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As the blue lights flashed through the boathouse windows, I took a deep breath, ready to step into our new future. Scarred, but stronger for having weathered the storm. The weeks following the confrontation at the boathouse were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, family therapy sessions, and long, difficult conversations. Linda and Gary faced the consequences of their actions, both legally and within the family. As I watched them leave the courthouse after their sentencing, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. The Linda I once knew was gone, consumed by her own bitterness and jealousy. Our family gathered at our home for the first time since everything had come to light. The tension in the air was palpable as aunts, uncles, and cousins filed in, their faces a mix of confusion, hurt, and hope. I stood in the center of the living room, my heart pounding. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice shaky but determined. "We've been through a lot as a family, and it's time we face the truth together." Over the next hour, with Robert and Rachel by my side, we laid bare the years of manipulation, the stolen money, and the web of lies Linda had spun. There were gasps of shock, tears of betrayal, and moments of stunned silence. "We're not here to point fingers," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "We're here to heal, to rebuild the trust that was broken." As the truth sank in, I saw a change come over our family. The walls of suspicion and resentment began to crumble, replaced by a tentative understanding. Aunt Margaret, Linda's staunchest supporter, approached me with tears in her eyes. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. Can you ever forgive us?" I hugged her tightly, my own tears falling. "There's nothing to forgive. We were all victims of Linda's manipulations. What matters now is that we move forward together." As the evening wore on, the atmosphere shifted. Stories were shared, old wounds acknowledged, and the first tentative steps toward reconciliation were taken. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension and awkward silences, but it was a start. Later that night, as the last of the family left, Robert, Rachel, and I sat together on the porch swing. The weight of the past weeks, months, and years seemed to lift slightly as we gazed at the stars. "Mom," Rachel said softly, "I'm proud of us, for standing up to Aunt Linda, for telling the truth." I squeezed her hand. "Me too, sweetheart. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary." Robert cleared his throat. "Evelyn, Rachel, I know I have a lot to make up for. My blindness to Linda's manipulations, my failure to protect our family. I'm so sorry. I promise to do better, to be the husband and father you both deserve." I looked at him, seeing the genuine remorse and love in his eyes. "It won't be easy," I said honestly. "We have a lot of trust to rebuild. But we'll do it together, day by day." Rachel leaned her head on my shoulder. "We've been through so much," she murmured. "Do you think we'll ever be okay?" I wrapped my arms around my daughter, pulling Robert closer too. "We will," I said, feeling a surge of hope in my chest. "We've been through the fire, and we've come out stronger. Together, we can overcome anything." As we sat there, our little family unit holding tight to each other, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trusts to mend, and a family to rebuild. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited for the future. Linda's shadow no longer loomed over us. We were free to write our own story, to build the kind of loving, supportive family we all deserved. And as I looked at Robert and Rachel, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them united. The night air was cool, filled with the promise of new beginnings. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that this wasn't just an ending. It was a beautiful new start. I took a deep breath, smoothing my hands over my navy blue skirt suit as I stepped into the bustling state building lobby. Today was the big day, my interview for the senior correspondent position at the governor's office. This opportunity could be a game changer for my career. As a single mom, balancing work and raising my 8-year-old daughter Haley was a constant juggling act, but I was determined to make it work. The assistant at the front desk greeted me with a polite smile. "Miss Carter, the governor's team is ready for you upstairs," I nodded, mustering my most confident expression. "Thank you, I'm ready." As I made my way to the elevators, my phone vibrated in my purse, probably Haley checking in from school. I pulled it out to check the caller ID, and my heart skipped a beat. It was Haley's number, but much too early for her to be out already. "Mom, please come home. I heard everything." Haley's small voice trembled through the speaker, laced with fear. "What do you mean, sweetie? What happened?" "It's Keith. He hurt me. I heard him talking about something bad." The world around me seemed to freeze as the weight of her words sank in. Keith, my charismatic boyfriend of 6 months, had always been so warm and caring towards Haley, but the terror in her voice was unmistakable. "Haley, I'm on my way right now," I said, my voice shaking. "Stay hidden and don't let Keith see you, okay?" Without a second thought, I bolted out of the building, the governor's interview forgotten. My mind raced as I jumped into my car, scenarios of what could have happened flashing through my mind. How could I have been so blind? Keith had seemed like the perfect guy, kind, successful, even getting along well with my ex-husband Peter for Haley's sake. But now, my little girl's words echoed in my ears, a sickening pit forming in my stomach. I had to get to her, and fast. I burst through the front door of our modest suburban home, my heart pounding. Haley? Haley, where are you? A small figure emerged from the hallway closet, tears streaming down her face. Haley ran into my arms, trembling. Mommy, I was so scared. I held her tight, stroking her hair. It's okay, baby. I'm here now. What happened? Haley sniffled, her little hands clutching my blouse. Keith came home early from work. Spat. He was yelling on the phone about some money problems. Then he started throwing things around the living room. A chill ran down my spine. In all our months together, I had never seen that side of Keith. I tried to stay quiet in my room, Haley continued. But then he came in and grabbed my arm really hard. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing angry red marks. White-hot fury coursed through me at the sight of those marks on my baby's delicate skin. How could he lay a hand on her? Haley, I'm so sorry, I whispered fiercely, holding her close. This will never happen again, I promise. The front door opened and Keith walked in, his expression changing from confusion to feigned concern when he saw us huddled together. Jenna? What's going on? I met his gaze with steel in my eyes. How dare you put your hands on my daughter? Keith's face contorted in mock bewilderment. What are you talking about? Haley must be making things up again for attention. He knelt down, his voice taking on that sickly, sweet tone he used to manipulate. Isn't that right, Princess? You know I'd never hurt you. Haley shrank back against me, her eyes wide with fear. In that moment, I knew her terror was real, and the man I thought I knew was a monster. Get out, I snarled at Keith. Get out of my house and don't ever come near us again. His expression darkened, the mask slipping. You'll regret this, Jenna. I can make your life hell. Before I could respond, the front door opened again, and Keith's 16-year-old son Ethan walked in, his headphones on and oblivious to the confrontation. What's going on? He asked flatly, taking in the scene. Keith straightened, his charming smile returning like a light switch. Nothing, son, just a little misunderstanding. Why don't you go on up to your room? Ethan shrugged and disappeared down the hallway. I watched him go, a sinking feeling in my gut. If Keith could put on such a convincing act for his own child, what else was he capable of hiding? This isn't over, Keith hissed, grabbing his coat. You're going to be sorry you crossed me. With that, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him hard enough to rattle the windows. I held Haley close, my mind whirling. What had I gotten us into? And how could I protect my little girl from the storm I sensed was coming? After Keith's explosive confrontation, I knew I needed backup to protect Haley and myself. I texted my ex-husband Peter, knowing he would drop everything for our daughter's safety. Within the hour, he was at my doorstep, his face etched with concern. Jenna? What's going on? Are you two okay? I quickly recounted the incident with Keith as Haley clung to my side, her eyes still red from crying. Peter's expression darkened with barely contained fury. That son of a bitch laid his hands on my little girl? His fists clenched. I'll kill him. Pete, please. I put a hand on his arm, trying to calm him. As much as I understood his anger, violence wouldn't solve anything. We need to handle this carefully for Haley's sake. He took a deep breath, nodding reluctantly. Peter had always been protective of us, even after our divorce 2 years ago. I was grateful he was still in our lives. The next morning, I headed into work with Haley by my side, determined to investigate Keith's background more thoroughly. I pulled my tech-savvy colleague Tony aside. Tony, I need your help digging into someone's digital footprint, I said in a low voice. It's sensitive. Tony's eyes widened behind his thick glasses, but he simply nodded. Say no more. Bring me what you've got, and I'll get to work. Back at my desk, I pulled up every scrap of information I had on Keith. Emails, phone records, social media profiles, anything that could provide a window into the truth behind his carefully crafted persona. As I compiled the files, movement at my periphery caught my eye. I glanced up to see Haley standing beside my desk, clutching her well-worn stuffed bunny. Mommy, when is Keith coming back? She asked in a small voice. My heart clenched at her innocent question. I got up and knelt in front of her, taking her little hands in mine. Baby Keith, he's not a good man. You were right to be scared of him. I struggled to find the right words, my protective instincts raging. He won't be coming back, ever. I won't let him hurt you again. Haley's lower lip trembled, but she nodded bravely. In that moment, I silently vowed to do whatever it took to keep this little girl safe from harm. Later that evening, Tony came to my apartment with a grim expression. "Jenna, you were right to be suspicious of this Keith guy." He pulled out a stack of printed documents, phone records, bank statements, even court filings from other states. I did some deep digging, and it's not pretty. Tony laid out a trail of evidence, a history of debt and unpaid loans, allegations of fraud and intimidation from ex-business partners. It painted a picture of a manipulative, vindictive man constantly chasing money through shady schemes. "There's more," Tony continued grimly. "I found 2 ex-wives who filed restraining orders claiming emotional and financial abuse. One of them, she dropped off the grid about 5 years ago." A chill shot down my spine. Had Keith's twisted games gone even further than we realized? I thought of Haley's terrified face, and my blood boiled. "We need to take this to the police," I stated, my voice hardening with resolve. "And we need an ironclad case to put this bastard away for good." Tony and I exchanged a determined look. For my little girl's sake, I would burn Keith's life to the ground and salt the earth. He had inexcusably threatened the most precious thing in my world, and he was going to pay. Over the next few days, I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for Haley's sake while Tony and I continued digging into Keith's past. The more we uncovered, the sicker I felt. Unpaid debts, allegations of fraud, and a string of scorned exes in his wake. Just how deep did this man's depravity run? One evening, there was a heavy knock at the door. I tensed, pulling Haley closer to me on the couch before getting up to answer it. To my surprise, it was Keith standing on the doorstep, an unsettling smile plastered on his face. "Hello, Jenna. Aren't you going to invite me in?" His voice was sickly sweet, but I could see the cold threat simmering in his eyes. "You're not welcome here," I stated firmly, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want you to stay away from me and my daughter." Keith's expression hardened. "That's no way to speak to your boyfriend, Jenna, after all we've been through together?" He took a step forward, and I instinctively moved to block him from entering. "We're through, Keith. I know what kind of man you really are." I couldn't keep the disgust from my voice. The lies, the manipulation, threatening a child, it's sick. A muscle twitched in his jaw, but that eerie smile didn't waver. "You don't know what you're talking about, babe. Haley's just a troubled little girl looking for attention. Maybe I was a little rough with her, but she had it coming, disobeying me like that." White-hot fury lanced through me at his casual dismissal of abusing my daughter. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out physically. "Get off my property before I call the police, you psychopath." Keith's gaze flicked over my shoulder, catching sight of Haley peeking around the corner. His smile widened, sending a chill down my spine. "You'll regret this, Jenna. You have no idea what I'm capable of." With that ominous warning, he turned and strode back to his car, leaving me shaken. I quickly shut and locked the door, pulling Haley into a fierce hug. "It's okay, baby. He's not going to hurt you again, I promise." My words sounded hollow even to my own ears. If Keith was willing to threaten a child, what other depraved acts was he capable of to regain control? The next morning, I arrived at work to find Tony waiting anxiously at my desk. "Jenna, you'd better see this." He pulled up a series of images, screenshots of disturbing internet searches from Keith's laptop. Things no sane person should ever be looking for, much less the man dating a single mother. My stomach turned. "There's more," Tony said grimly. "I accessed the cloud backup for your home computer and, well, see for yourself." With a few keystrokes, he pulled up a video feed from inside my living room, a hidden camera I never knew existed. I felt violated all over again, watching mundane family moments playing out, all secretly recorded by that monster. "We have to go to the police now," I stated, feeling numb. "With this evidence, they can put him away for a long time." Tony nodded in solemn agreement, but something nagged at the back of my mind. If Keith was this unhinged and desperate, what other surprises might he have in store for the people trying to take him down? I made a call to Peter, knowing we'd need all the backup we could get. There was no going back now. For Haley's safety, I had to dismantle Keith's life, piece by sickening piece. With the damning evidence Tony uncovered, we knew we had to act fast before Keith could make his next move. Peter agreed to take Haley somewhere safe while Tony and I solidified our case against that monster. "Are you sure about this, Jenna?" Peter asked, concern etched on his face as he held our daughter's hand. "This guy seems capable of anything. I don't want you putting yourself in danger." "I have to do this, Pete," I stated firmly, "for Haley's sake. Keith needs to go away for a long, long time where he can't hurt anyone else." Peter nodded reluctantly. "Just be careful, and call me the second you need backup, you hear?" After they left, Tony and I got to work compiling every shred of proof we had. Bank records, court filings, the recordings from the hidden camera. It was a dizzying array of manipulation and deceit. "Wait, there's more," Tony said, his eyes widening at his computer screen. "I think I found something big." He turned the monitor to show me a series of money transfers to an offshore account I'd never seen before. And not just any money. These amounts were huge, in the millions. "What the hell is this?" I breathed. "Where is Keith getting this kind of cash?" Tony shook his head grimly. "I don't know, but it can't be legal." "And look at this." He scrolled through more documents, fake IDs, fraudulent passports, all under different aliases, linked to those shady transactions. A sickening realization began to dawn on me. You think he's been running some kind of long con, scamming and manipulating innocent people out of their life savings? The pieces were starting to fall into place. Keith's constantly shifting business ventures, the trail of embittered exes, his quick attachment to me and Haley despite his shady past. He'd simply been looking for his next big score, and I'd let him get dangerously close to my family. "We need to take this to the authorities right away," I stated, feeling numb, "before he gets tipped off and tries to run." Tony nodded grimly. "I'll make some calls. We're going to bury this bastard." I forced myself to stay focused over the next few hours as we marshaled our evidence and contacted the police, but my mind kept drifting to Keith's earlier threat, his cold eyes boring into me. What else was he capable of to protect his con? A sudden knock at the apartment door made me jump. I tensed, reaching slowly for the baseball bat I now kept within reach at all times. "Who is it?" "It's me, Ethan. Keith's son." The teenage boy's muffled voice came through the door. I need to talk to you about my dad." My blood ran cold. Had Keith sent his own child here to threaten me, or worse? I gripped the bat tighter as I cracked open the door a few inches. Ethan looked past me into the apartment, his expression unreadable. "I know what my dad's really been up to. The lies, the money. I want to help you take him down." I searched his face for any hint of deception, but his steely gaze seemed sincere, if haunted. Slowly, I opened the door the rest of the way. "Tell me everything," I said grimly. If Ethan was truly on our side, he could be the key to finally destroying Keith's web of schemes once and for all. For Haley's sake, and every other innocent life that monster had shattered, I would make sure Keith paid the ultimate price. No mercy, no half measures. It was time to end this. With Ethan's help, the pieces finally fell into place. The kid may have been aloof, but he wasn't blind to his father's twisted games. Turns out Ethan had been collecting evidence against Keith for years, secret recordings, financial documents, you name it. "I always knew there was something off about him," Ethan explained, running a hand through his shaggy hair. "The constant moving, the shady business deals, the way he treated women like they were disposable. I just didn't know how far it really went until recently." Tony and I exchanged a grim look as we pored over Ethan's trove of damning evidence. It was a dizzying paper trail of fraud, emotional abuse, and ruined lives in Keith's wake. "We have to take this public," I stated, feeling that familiar fire burning in my chest. "Expose every last one of his sins to the world so he can never hurt anyone again." "Are you sure that's wise?" Ethan asked hesitantly. "My dad, he's capable of anything when he's backed into a corner. If he gets tipped off, he could run, or worse." I thought of Haley's terrified face that day, the marks on her little arm from Keith's vicious grip. No, I was done playing his twisted game by his rules. "Your father's reign of terror ends now," I said, my voice hardening. "We're going to take him down in a big way, live for the whole world to see. No more hiding in the shadows." With grim determination, we got to work. First order of business, find out where Keith's next big public appearance would be. The slime ball never missed a chance to preen for the cameras. Sure enough, Tony discovered Keith was headlining some big corporate event in a few days' time, rubbing elbows with local bigwigs and politicians. Perfect. Next, we looped in some other key players, Peter to help keep Haley safe and secure, and Linda, one of Keith's ex-wives who had barely escaped his clutches with her life years ago. She was more than eager to help bring him down once and for all. "I'll be there with everything I have on that monster," she stated grimly over the phone. It's long past time he faced real consequences. Finally, the big day arrived. I could feel the adrenaline thrumming through my veins as we got into position at the convention center where Keith's event was happening. Peter and Haley were safely tucked away, but I knew my little girl was watching over the live stream we had set up. Keith took the stage, all false bravado and that trademark smarmy grin, utterly oblivious to the reckoning that was coming. I caught Ethan's eye across the room and gave him a nod. Let the fireworks begin. With a few keystrokes, Tony hijacked the big screens flanking the stage. Suddenly, Keith's smiling face was replaced by images and footage documenting his endless trail of sins. The fraud, the abuse, the conning of innocent victims out of their life savings. I watched the color drain from his face as he realized what was happening. No, you can't do this! But it was too late. Linda was already striding towards the stage, her face contorted with years of pent-up fury. "Hello, Keith?" she spat venomously. "Remember me?" As he sputtered and backpedaled, more damning evidence filled the screens. Transcripts, audio recordings, all of it leading back to him. There was no wiggle room, no escape hatch this time. I stood tall, staring Keith down as security finally moved in to subdue his thrashing form. "This is for my daughter, you sick son of a bitch," I called out, loud enough for the cameras to catch. "Your reign of terror is over." Keith met my gaze then, and I saw the mask finally crack, revealing the depraved, soulless monster beneath. But I didn't flinch. I was done being afraid. As they dragged him away, I felt something loosen in my chest. A weight finally lifted after all these months of living in fear. My little girl was safe, and that twisted bastard would never be able to hurt another innocent life again. The days after our explosive expose of Keith's crimes were a whirlwind. Giving statements to the police, fielding a frenzy of media inquiries, and trying to shield Haley from the spotlight as much as possible. But through it all, I felt an immense sense of relief and vindication. That monster was finally behind bars where he could never hurt another innocent family again. Peter had been an absolute rock, keeping Haley occupied and reassuring her that the nightmare was over. I don't know what I would have done without his steady presence. "You did it, Jenna," he said simply one evening as we watched Haley playing in the living room, mercifully oblivious to the weight we had all carried. "You saved her." I managed a weary smile, suddenly feeling the full extent of the emotional trauma. "We saved her, Pete. If you hadn't been there for us..." He gave my hand a comforting squeeze, and I felt a pang of regret that things hadn't worked out between us as a couple. Peter was a good man, a great father, but I had been too obsessed with my career to make our marriage a priority when it mattered most. At least now, in the aftermath of this chaos, we could be united as co-parents for Haley's well-being. A firm knock at the door pulled me from my reverie. I tensed automatically. Too many months of living on edge, I supposed. But when I pulled it open, I saw Ethan's familiar, brooding expression. "Hey!" He shuffled awkwardly on the doorstep. "I wanted to check in, see how you guys were doing." I studied Keith's son carefully. He had been through his own private hell, witnessing his father's depravity up close over the years. But in the end, Ethan had chosen the moral path, despite the risks. "We're coping," I replied honestly. "It's going to take some time to feel really safe again, you know?" Ethan nodded, looking pained. "Yeah, I get that." He drew a deep, shuddering breath. "Look, I know I can't make up for the shit my dad put you through, but if you'll let me, I want to be here, you know? For Haley and..." He trailed off, his jaw tightening. In that moment, I saw it, the longing for some semblance of family, of stability, underneath his prickly exterior. This poor kid had been starved of that his whole life, thanks to his father's toxicity. On impulse, I reached out and pulled Ethan into a fierce hug. He stiffened at first, then melted into the embrace with a quiet sigh. "You're a part of this family now, kiddo," I murmured fiercely. "We'll get through this together." There would still be plenty of hard days ahead, to be sure, wounds to mend, trust to rebuild. But in that moment I felt a sense of hope and determination well up in my chest. We had taken down the biggest demon of all. Whatever other battles awaited, we would face them head-on, unafraid, our little family of survivors bound by our scars yet standing tall. When I finally released Ethan, I saw the glimmer of tears in his eyes, but he quickly blinked them away with a gruff nod. That was okay. We had all the time in the world now to learn how to heal and find our strength together. "Come on in," I said with a soft smile, gesturing inside. "There's someone who's going to be real happy to see her new big brother." As Haley came bounding over, her face lighting up at the sight of Ethan, I knew we were going to be all right. The nightmare was over. A new chapter was just beginning. In the weeks after Keith's dramatic downfall, life slowly began to return to normal, or at least some semblance of it. The nonstop media frenzy died down, the police wrapped up their investigation, and that sick, twisted chapter was finally closed. Of course, the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. I could see it in Haley's eyes sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking, that flicker of residual fear and uncertainty. My poor baby had her innocence shattered at such a tender age. But she was a resilient little fighter, my girl. With me, Peter, and even Ethan rallying around her, she found her sunshine again, bit by bit. Ethan, I'll admit, I had my doubts about him sticking around at first. The kid had been through his own private trauma thanks to his scumbag father. Who could blame him if he wanted to just cut and run from this ugly chapter? Instead, he stunned me by digging his heels in, determined to build a real relationship with Haley and be the supportive big brother figure she needed. They grew inseparable those first few months, playing endless rounds of make-believe and watching corny movies together. I'll never forget the night I caught them giggling secretly in the living room, Ethan's face unguardedly joyful as Haley smeared makeup all over his cheeks. Just a couple of silly kids being kids, without a care in the world. In that moment, my heart swelled with overwhelming gratitude that we had each other to lean on through the darkness. Of course, Peter was instrumental as well, my eternally patient ex-husband and co-parent. I lost count of how many times he dropped everything to rush over, whether it was fielding a night terror from Haley or just giving me a shoulder to cry on. "You don't have to thank me, Jen," he said simply one evening as we sat on the porch enjoying the tranquility. "I'll always be here for you two. That's never going to change." I felt a pang of wistfulness, thinking of what might have been if I had prioritized my little family over my all-consuming career years ago. Peter was a good man, a good father, maybe in another life, but I pushed those thoughts aside, giving him a grateful smile. "I know, and that means everything, Pete, really." As the summer days stretched on peacefully, I found myself slowly shedding the weight of fear and hypervigilance I'd carried for so long. The smiles came more easily, the laughter rang out more freely in our humble little home. One evening, I was putting Haley to bed when she stopped me shyly. "Mommy, can I give this to Ethan, to say thank you for being so nice?" She was clutching one of her prized possessions, a delicate wind chime made of bright seashells that Peter had brought back from a vacation years ago. Despite her young age, Haley understood the significance of such a gesture. I felt a lump form in my throat as I stroked her soft hair. "Of course you can, baby. I'm sure he'll love it." As I left her bedroom, I could see Ethan lingering in the hallway, his brooding expression softening just a touch as he watched his new little sister drift off to sleep. In that moment, I knew we had finally formed our own little family, a bit unconventional, a bit scarred, but bound by cords tougher than blood, loyal, protective, and absolutely unbreakable against any storm. I caught Ethan's eye and smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace wash over me. The nightmare was finally over. All that remained was the warm, brilliant promise of new horizons ahead. As I drifted off to sleep that night, the gentle chiming of Haley's gift to Ethan echoed faintly, like a lullaby ushering in hopeful dreams. Our future was wide open, the possibilities endless, and we would face it together, steadfast survivors all.